and professional. Well, I butchered that intro, didn't I? G'day, citizens. I'm Execute. Welcome to the Inforunners. Joined today by Algared. How you doing, buddy?
I'm alive.
Yeah,
It's a standard greeting these days.
Yep. I think Lemming's with us as well. Lemming, you going to be joining us, or are you just going to sit and watch awkwardly?
I'm just watching.
You're just watching? Okay, no problem.
Gee,
All right, then.
that sounds really clear, Lemming.
Yeah, he's on a new mic, that's why.
Yeah, I was going to say, that sounds like a new mic.
All right. So, we're going to be taking your questions as usual. We also can... Algared, I think I can sum up the video that we didn't do yesterday, as in the experimental ISC. I can wrap it up in 3 words. Maps for caves. That's the entire... That was the only thing I took out of the entire episode, and that's why we didn't do an episode yesterday, because there was just nothing in it that was... It's kind of cool if you want to learn about how game development works, but those of us that have been here for a really, really long time, that's probably the 3rd or 4th time they've done a video like that over the last 10 years. And I just, yeah, and I also needed sleep, so I just didn't bother. Yeah, I don't know. Did you get a chance to watch it yourself?
I did watch it after I saw your message.
Mm-hmm.
After I waited and man, he'll be here, sure. He'll be here soon.
Well, you were up at 2 a.m, so you waited for like 4 hours, and I was just sleeping because I went to bed about 1 a.m. and I just couldn't sleep. I just tossed and turned for 5 hours and then fell asleep.
That was me last night. Tossed and turned all night. Last time I looked at the clock, it was 4:30, and I said, "All right, I'll just rest here for half an hour before I have to get up." Right. And then the next thing, the phone was ringing, and you were calling me, and I that means I'd slept through the alarm. Yep. slept through the 5:30 alarm.
Yep.
Or the 5 o'clock alarm. So, and the 5:30 alarm for that matter. So, yeah. Oh crap.
Jodomo, thank you for the basic membership on YouTube. I appreciate it, mate.
Always appreciated. Never demanded or expected, but wow, do we appreciate it.
I'm starting to learn every time they say experimental ISC that it's not going to be that great, because everyone they've done now has not been that great.
In fairness, like the content they gave and the information that was given was good.
Yeah, it was good, but it just
it was informative.
Yeah.
And it did look at game development. What I'd like to see is probably more of putting those in the mix rather than just doing a whole slab all in one hit and saying,
I would agree. Yeah. You kind of want to mix it in with the news, and you need a bit of both, not just one or the other. I would agree with that entirely.
I even think even if it was just a whole episode like that, just as a one-off spread throughout the normal series would be fine. But to do the experimental, we're just doing a 3 weeks of experimental, so we can just get all of that off our chest. And yeah, we've done it. It just feels a bit rushed. It feels a bit.
We can tell they're changing though, because the first one was very more about the people, and then this one was more about the actual development. So they've they've changed it in already a week. Right?
Yeah.
So I don't know what the last one's going to be, but
look, I actually thought the first one was good. I liked the first one in just getting to know the team a little bit and seeing how the team themselves approach things.
Right.
And who the team were that made up that, who the people who made up that team. This time I liked it in that it was not about the team, but the process they go through. And it wasn't just looking at caves. It was, although that comes into it, but it was looking at how do we build a settlement? What's the process we go through when we're building the level? Why do we put X here and Y there? So looking at the processes, but they were literally taking the role of a game master in a dungeon, laying out what is there for the players in the world. So setting the scene, but then not only just setting the scene, but now looking at it and saying, okay, why is that here? How does it influence? What can the player do with that? And so that changes the way in which you set it up as well. So it was interesting and informative, but as you said, for older people like us who've seen it 3-4 times over the years, or seen them do that, or seen them talk about that. Hell, I can remember back in 1824 in 2020 in 2015 on a 10 for the chairman. Chris went through and talked about how they do level design. Because it was a question that I said, how if we're not doing this, how are we doing levels? What's going on? How are you building this? What are you doing? And he went through and talked about what they were doing with level design, and the processes they were trying to do. So that type of thing is something that CIG have talked about at length over the years. But yeah, like you said, it would be nice to see.
Well, the other thing they did do today is they did a live, and they're doing mission, like they're talking about how to creating missions and stuff like that, which is similar to what they did with the producer stuff. But I think that's one that they probably need to redo. I do see the point in revisiting this stuff because there's new people that came along, but I think their timing's a little off. Like I said before, when you've just taken a 1 month break and people are starving for content, and to basically essentially come back and say, oh, we're going to be doing this for the next 3 weeks, essentially taking 2 months off. It's just a little. It's like you said, interweave it with the other stuff, and it would have been fine, But to front load it, that was a bit silly, which tells me they don't have much to share.
To me, it feels like, well, even if we've got a lot to share, to me, putting it all together right at the beginning of a new block just feels cheap in terms of let's get it over and done with. Rather than, hey, this one's a special, we're doing. So if it's intermittent, it adds to the value. If you continually just put them all together and then just ignore them for another year, it feels like I'm doing my due diligence and I'm just ticking the box because I have to tick the box, and that feels cheap.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, okay. All right, so as you guys know, this stream lives and dies on questions, so please...
And we've got 2.
We've got 2 at the moment. So yeah, please get your questions in. If you want us to keep streaming, we just end it when the questions end. I'm trying to think if there's anything else I had to tell you that I did this week. No, it's been a pretty quiet week for me. I've had a very relaxed time. I've just tried to chill out. I did get a chance to jump onto the Evocati last night. I did message you. Did you get a chance? Did you actually get in? I did get a chance
to get in, and I was at Lawville, and I also I'm going to go check out the cargo, and I got to the vehicle terminal, the terminals, and went ship, and I went, oh, I'll take a reclaimer, not a reclaimer, a retaliator, and I'll take the cargo modules in it. And then I crashed.
They do crash. It crashed a few times for me as well. I did look at a few other people's responses to the Evocati as well. I think a lot of people are doing the whole cart before the horse thing again, where they're not seeing that this is like what CIG used to call tier 1. They are expecting all these features that they had with other stuff to be there. For example, there's no search functionality. The HUD is just not. Well, there's parts of it that are better. There's parts of it that are worse. Little things come out of order. Like there's a real obvious one. Like at the moment, the hangar starts up, and then it's got to go down. Then the doors are got to close. Then the doors are got to open, and then it's got to all come back up with the ship. Where realistically, you can kind of tell once they get this working, it's probably going to start with the doors already closed. And you'll just spawn. So half the animation doesn't need to be there. It does take quite a while, especially if you're doing a big shit like a reclaimer, because you're looking at like a minute. I'm not even kidding. But visually, it looks awesome.
And when you think of it, like that doors opening and the going down and doors closing, that's actually a loading. That is effectively a loading screen of what's going on. And so,
well, you know how you got the NPC closets. It's literally a closet for ships.
And so it's a spawning spot where the ships come, and then the doors open, and the ships will be there. And I imagine if I don't have the object culling yet, the interior culling of the ships that can't be seen, and they've got to load every single solitary room and object that's on the ship, even though we can't see it. That's going to add time to that process. That's just me trying to look for excuses rather than anything else, I suppose. So
the other thing I just realised we forgot to do was we were meant to add a ship to give away on the weekend's episode, and we forgot. So trying to remember to do it this weekend. I forgot last weekend. I just totally slipped my mind, and I don't just remember now.
We were also going to go back and have a look on at the previous giveaway.
Oh yeah, that guy. Because I messaged him, but he's never reached out. So we might just redraw that too and give that away again. I might try and do that at the moment in the background though. So I'll be a little slow, but I will try to do that. That's
what we were saying. We'd give him the week to do that. Well, you and I were saying that we'd give him the week to do that, and when we were talking in the middle of the week. And the decision we made is if he didn't get back to us by today, by the live stream, we'd redraw it and let people know on the live stream, and then whoever wins today or whoever wins, they have a week. And if they don't get in contact with us in a week, we will redraw, and we'll just keep doing that until we finally get contact by the person who gets drawn out in a week.
Alrighty. Yeah. So I think I'll just have to redo that one, Algared. I don't.
Yep.
But yeah.
I'm just trying to have a look at the chat there. I haven't got Twitch up because I stopped fighting with it last week because it was a pain in the bottom.
We've got a few questions there, but if you want to take one, and I'll try and look at redoing this.
Yep. So, Zio, why do you like drinking Guinness? Or who are you saying prefers to drink Guinness? Since he says he prefers to watch. I like to watch. You remember the old Guinness ads, I'm sure. X is busy, that's why he's not responding to me.
Sorry, what was it? What was about Guinness?
See? There was an old ad. Remember the ad? I like to watch. And Zio on YouTube says he prefers to watch. So, who prefers to watch? What time is it where we are? It is 6:22 a.m. So usually we start right on 6. We were running a little late because I hadn't really slept, and when I finally did, I've got half an hour before I have to get up. That's okay. I slept through the alarm and the backup alarm, and then woke with the phone call. So,
16. I've just drawn it again. And the second person is Gabsy4924, who says, "Hey, Execute, love the content as always. You guys do so much for the community. I am always very grateful to you." And Algared, cheers from Brazil. Oh, there you go. That's one from Brazil.
I'll respond to him there and say, contact us on Discord with the details, and we will get you a ship. Also, if you happen to be watching or you happen to be a friend of the winner, contact him. Let them know to contact us, and so they can claim their ship.
Please reach out to either Algared or myself via Discord so we can get that
Alex
off to.
And Alex says, "Nice Guinness at 6:22 a.m." No, it's tea on my part. Guinness would probably kill me.
It is a raging alcoholic. Didn't you guys know this?
So, no, I was running late. So, X saw me turn up with a cup with a tea bag in it that still hadn't soaked.
Yep.
It was very pale and very weak.
So I'm just going to post this person's name in.
Into chat.
Well, it's double posting for some reason. I don't know why, but it did. Apologies. But that's the person that won on YouTube. Apologies for the double post. Can I edit it? Maybe I can edit it. No.
So that's
I can
Gabby,
remove it. I'll just remove it.
4924 is our winner.
Yep.
And so if you happen to know Gabby's 2942 or 2924, sorry, then get him to contact us and
So we'll give them another week to reach out. I've never had so much difficulty giving away a ship before, but apparently it's hard. So yeah.
Yeah. Apparently people don't want our ships.
Yeah. And the way I did that was I just filtered. I went to the video. I filtered it by public subscribers because I can. If you're not a subscriber, you don't win, and if you keep it private, I can't see it. And then I just went through. I know last time there was 137 comments, so any new comments that were added would be at the top. So I just went 137. I ran a number between 1 and 137 on Google, and it gave me 121. And then I just went to the bottom, and 137 minus 121 is 16, and I just counted up from the bottom, got to 16, and that was the comment.
Yep. So there you go. So JD Wenzel, yes, you can be the bigger man and accept our ship if you left a comment for that video in the time frame that you had, and you're a registered subscriber that's public.
Yep.
And if you have been drawn, yes, we will gladly give you a ship under those conditions.
Yep.
But if you're not drawn, I'm sorry.
Yep. Now, have you had any more luck with your flights for the UK? Are you close to getting that all organised and squared away?
I was intending to do that this week, but as you know, I've been crook. So when my doctor said, no, you've got to rest this week, I literally tried to rest this week. And
well, you should probably tell people you took the whole week off, didn't you? He was a lazy bitch the whole week. Very unlike Algared, if you know who he is. He's always working. So for him to take the week off is very difficult. He was like, I would ask him, what have you been doing? He goes, trying to do nothing. And he finds that very difficult. So
yeah, it was. Yeah, I talked to people. That was it. But I was, not feeling really bad on last Sunday, and decided, need to go to the doctor, and went to the doctor, and he went, yep, we're still waiting for the results on tests. You need to rest.
Yep.
And it's like, but
did do you feel better now though? Like having kind of 5, you don't feel any better at all? Like, oh wow, that's terrible.
I've still got the ache. I'm sure I'm sure at some time you see me wince because I get that stab of pain and I go, ow, that does not feel good. Or sometimes it's indigestion, but on the left side of the chest.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or the fluttering. That sends a quiver down my spine. I don't like that. But yeah, I don't like this new feeling. It's this new normal. It's horrible. Especially when the doctors say this is not good. We don't like this new normal.
Yeah, I hope it clears up a bit, especially as we lead into travel time, so to speak. So
yeah, like it's not. It's clearly not an issue of I'm going to drop off a perch and all that stuff. It's more an issue of comfort and ease and stuff. And,
So let's get back to the Evocati build real quick before we go back into questions. So the other thing for me was the actual cargo looks really cool. Like you can, like when it all comes up on the elevator is really cool. But I think we're going to lose a few people when they realize the time things are now going to take. Because your traditional press I for inventory screen is gone. You have to work up to a terminal now to do everything. You get 8 SCU of cargo that kind of comes out in a drawer that you can access. It's almost like that traditional I menu, but you have to do it right next to the terminal. And then the cargo itself, like it appears there, but you've got to manually load it all onto your ship. And the auto loader, you can tell, again, this is what I mean about tier 0, is there are no benefits for different size boxes. And what I mean by that is everything is timed. So one SCU takes a certain amount of time, And it doesn't matter if you've got a 1 SCU box or a 32 SCU box, where realistically it would be sped up because you're only moving one box at a time. And I think that needs to become a factor of it as well. And the last part I've got is you've obviously, the AI is going to have to, when it loads the cargo, you're going to have to organize where you want the cargo placed too. So that's got another thing to come in later. So it's going to be interesting because this you can so tell it's some form of tier 0. And I think people are jumping the gun when they don't give them the chance to alliterate and bring in the other layers.
You know, you can clearly see that, like, just as you're saying, the load time. Well, you know that if it takes, you know, if you've got a machine that loads cargo and you've got a machine that can load 32 SU containers or 1 SU containers at the same speed, the determination will be how much cargo, you know, you're only taking this much cargo to this location. What size boxes is it in? I expect down the track, if you're taking cargo and you've got 4 or 5 loads, it'll load the cargo that's going here to this location, or this type of cargo in this box, and that'll mitigate the loading times. But it is going to have an impact. And similarly, when you pull up your cargo, if you've got it in a different size boxes, that's going to mitigate your loading time. So yeah.
The other part of it that I found really interesting is you start to work it through, right? With all the time it's going to take stuff now, people are going to be so much more cautious about losing their stuff. And you can see why, because now they're going to really want escorts. Because their fear is going to be piracy, and they're like, I've spent so long loading this shit. It's not the investment of a virtual currency, it's your time now that's really important. And I find that incredibly interesting because it's got a real world currency now, not a virtual currency that you can buy or anything like that. Your time, the most important thing that you have in your entire life as a currency.
You can't get back. That's right.
Yeah. And so people are going to be getting escorts because the value of everything is just going up, and pirates are going to like not have the easier time that they thought they had either. Because you're going to see that. I can see the connection now. Like if you've got to put time in, people are going to value their time more than anything. It's just going to be really interesting to watch that natural flow on. And I think where no one's really ever got escorts up to this point, the time investment alone is just going to change everything.
You look at the way we used to see people get really irate with the 30Ks because they were doing a cargo load, and they'd have built up their cash flow, finally decided to splurge and get a large load of cargo, and then they'd die and lose it all. And they get frustrated. And that for them it was that loss of time.
Yeah,
it's exactly the same situation now, but you can see it moving towards that point where not only is it our time, but it's actually the real resources. It's the stuff we've got, the stuff we've built up that gets lost as well. It's the ships, and yeah, you're starting to see that impact of lifetime insurance coming in soon, or your hull insurance starting to rear its ugly head and actually be a feature that's counting down or ticking. And that again, it's just going to make people look for escorts or other means. So yeah, I see it.
Yeah.
But as you said, there'll be some people who are crying, Chicken Little, the sky is falling, the sky is falling. So,
no.
Yeah.
So again, that was just what, I've only watched probably like 3 or 4 other creators commenting on it, but that was the thing across the board. They were noticing that it wasn't at the same level that they were already up to, and they were but again, it's the nature of development. You can't bring everything in one go. It just you've got to build it as you build it. It's like a sandcastle. You can't just build the whole thing one go. You got to pile it on to get up to where you need to go.
What do people expect is
miracles, Algared. Miracles.
I want it, and I want it now. The Veronica, the Veronica Gloop. Daddy, I want one, and I want one now. We live on a factory. So anyway, number 1.
Joe Domo, question.
Yeah?
Was Algared spent... Sorry, let me re-ask that. He says, has Algared spent the last 24 hours I got indigestion. Trying last 24 hours, trying to place 12 years of hanger flare around the extra large hanger.
No.
I didn't place any hanger flare at all. I did say someone else asked about the jukebox in chat, but no, I haven't tested that. So
I didn't even think to do that because X said, "Go get in and check the cargo stuff," and I'm like, right, I'll get in and start checking the cargo stuff. And I didn't even think to.
Well, you don't have long. They're only up for like 4 or so hours, and then they're down again. You know, so you've got a priority pick, and hanger flare is, let's be honest, it's not a high priority right now. That'll come back.
Although, seeing the personal hangers and being able to lay stuff out in the personal hangers would be good.
Mm.
But yeah, it is that limited.
Yeah.
Oh, what is the rarest hanger flare out there? I think possibly the Big Benny's.
Yes.
Machine, because you can't buy that on the store.
Yeah, it'd have to be the Big Benny's one, and only certain people got. I can't remember what you had to do to get it now.
You just had to be a subscriber, I think.
Yeah, a subscriber at the time. Is that what it was? Well, then
Yep.
if that so you can't buy it in the store. That's interesting.
No.
Yeah, I was going to say, wouldn't you just subscribe and buy it in the store? But they've changed it. So
No,
yeah,
that's the one item you can't buy in the store that I can recall. But the piano was never flare. The piano that was given away, piano was an object that was sold with the Phoenix.
Yeah.
So I don't consider that flare. That was Phoenix, part of the Phoenix equipment. You can buy the jukebox, I do believe. It's broken. It didn't work, or didn't used to work, so no one ever put it out. But yeah,
I don't even know if by today's standards they'll be able to do that anymore, because it plays MP3s off your computer, and there's legalities there now. So yeah.
Well, the idea was you play it in your own you play your music in your own hangar, and if your friends turn up, then it's in your hangar.
Yeah.
I'm not. I'd hate to see.
But you're not meant to be able to broadcast music to other people, so technically that's broadcasting to other people. You get my point, right? There's a legality there. So yeah.
And the other one is the legality for streamers who are playing music in their hangar.
Yep.
Streaming. So.
Yeah, there's a little ways around that though now with the way VODs and that are done. They don't record it to the VOD, so anyone that watches it after the fact, it's fine. But we'll see. Right, Arcane Dodger says, question, considering the current developments, how do you feel about development of drones and likelihood of the Apollo soon and Vulcan next year, in your opinion, of course? I think you and I have talked about this a bit. Most of the stuff is there for the drones, especially one like the Apollo drone, which I'll let you kind of go first on that one.
I think there's more likely a tech issue in terms of getting the drones to work, the remote control chips to work is effectively what a drone is. Whether we set the target and then send it off. I imagine there's some form of block or something there because, as you said, we've got for medical drones, the Shepherd drone, it literally goes down, sucks you up, bang, brings you back. A drone for salvage, the tools we need for salvage are there. They've just got to implement them onto the drone and then you control what it does. The repair drone seems to be there. The ability to rearm and refuel drones, stuff to do that is there. It's just the mechanic of how it does it is I don't think been worked out. But I think drones are not an absolute must-have at the moment. We can work around it.
That's what I was going to say. I don't think it's a blocker. I just think it's a need and a want type of thing. And I don't think they really need it right now. What do you get for drones? You know, they've got other gameplay that's got to come in first. And kind of like what me and Space sat down at the start of the year, it was really obvious to me. It was all foundational stuff. Like what are the big ticket items that you need to tick off to build on top of everything else? And base building is an absolutely huge one, as is scanning. And they're the two big ones that I've noticed that they're working on. You even look at the the kind of ships they're looking at, like things like the Perseus, the Galaxy, and the Polaris, like why are they coming in? And you can start to realize it's probably likely because the Polaris is there for Squadron 42, the Galaxy's there for base building, and I also think the Perseus, and when I say Squadron 42, I mean Episode 2. Because when they finish 1, they're going to go straight on to 2, and that's probably one of the main ships. The Perseus is probably a part of that because we know that oh god, I forgot the character's name, but Gary Oldman's character, he talked about
it's Bishop.
Yeah, Bishop was the one that found the Perseus, and he wanted it back. Well, if he's in the main storyline and he found the Perseus and it wants it in production, where does he find it? When and where? That's got to be a part of the storyline at some point, surely.
Yeah, well, we know the Perseus was part of a fleet that he dragged along with Squadron 42.
Yeah,
but it wasn't in the Battle of Vega 2 that the Perseus wins its renown. It's at a battle at another, following Squadron 42, basically, from what I gather.
So to bring this back to drones, that's showing you a priority of things that need to be done, and drones are just so far on the back burner that that's a multiplayer problem. Like drones are not, unless they bring a drone sequence in for Squadron 42, it's never going to come up to a priority order. And I think the other reason why the Apollo was being worked on was really because they were working on RSI ships. Here's the irony though, right? Now they showed, the last time we saw the Apollo, it was going into grey box at the end of last year or around CitizenCon, before CitizenCon, right? And then we never ever saw it in the ship silhouette video.
Nope.
Now, you think that would have been an easy win to put that into that video, would it not?
But,
so I now wonder, was it chopped?
It may have been chopped because we've known other ships have been worked on and removed. Yes, it's an RSI ship. Yes, they're working on RSI ships, but the 3 ships that they specifically said they're working on are the Doritos.
Yeah.
So it could have very well been the fact that they were working on it, they put it off because of X, Y, or Z.
Well, because they probably went, we need drones, but we don't want to put all that extra work in just for one ship at the moment.
And
so I don't know. I just put that question out there because it would have been such an easy one to put into that video. Why wouldn't it be there? If they'd already been working on it or they were continuing to work on it, why wouldn't it be there? And we had some, we've got 2 ships in there that we'd never heard anything about. And if you count the Miro Pulse at that time, that hadn't been heard of as well. So there was the Ursa Medivac we'd never heard of. Why the hell wasn't the Apollo there? You know what I mean? Like it was only meant to be new things, and by that token, why was the Retaliator and the Polaris there? We'd heard of those before. So not hearing about it is really weird, which tells me it was probably chopped or at least pushed to the side. So anyway.
But even though it wasn't in that video, you've also got to remember John Cruise said, and more.
He did.
You'll see these 12 ships and more.
Oh, well,
in the next 12 months. So, but when he says we'll see them, does that mean we'll see them in game? And I'm trying to just remember, did he mean we'll see them in game, flyable, or was he referring to?
I think he means both. It'll either be in game or for sale.
So we've had our recent concept of the Drake
Ironclad. Well, the Ironclad was there's your more.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So, there's that aspect as well. So
I will say, from what I'm hearing, I am starting to move more and more to the next line of ships coming as Drake. Like I said to you a couple of weeks ago, I've been hearing a lot about the Ironclad in the background, and I did share some of that with you as well. And knowing what I've heard, it looks like it's got Squadron 42 connotations for the Ironclad. So, and that's episode 2. And if that is the case, then that makes a lot of sense why it's coming. And if that means if you kind of prioritize it in, say, behind the Perseus, I think the next bunch of ships would be Drake, based on the things you and I have talked about.
And if I go, I'm just trying to remember, Drake has always been a very popular ship brand.
Mm-hmm.
And I think RSI used to be one of the other big.
I still think they are
big ones that everyone owned. Everyone owns. Yeah. Everyone owns Drake, that type of thing. And then there were 2 big main camps, and then you've got the combat ship companies in that mix as well. So I think there may have been that. But then when you look, to go back to the drone question, I think you might be right. The Apollo may have been dropped off because of the drones, even though they could put the Apollo in and ignore the drones because it can function as a ship at the moment without drones. I would imagine that when it really comes in, it comes in when they tweak up medical gameplay even more than it is at the moment, and I think that might be one of the factors that actually holds off the Apollo. But yeah, we just wait and see.
Yeah.
But
it's just interesting because like can go both ways, obviously. And I don't disagree with anything you said there, but you're essentially just talking out your thought process, and I agree with you. It could go either way because you don't really need the drones for that one. I think the only real ship you and I could really say that it is essential on is the Vulcan at the moment. Yeah,
the Vulcan is the only one that you absolutely must have. Like, the Reclaimer's got drones, but it doesn't need them to function.
Yeah, same with the Crucible.
Same for the Crucible, and same for the Carrack.
Yep.
The Carrack doesn't need its drones to function.
Yep.
It might need them once scanning comes on to be better, but it doesn't need them to function. The only ship that 100% needs drones to function and do its job is the Vulcan, because that's the only way it does rearm, repair, and refuel. Yeah.
Well, you can't do anything without it. So yeah. All right. Hawkshaw 2 says, question: I am working on an all Drake fleet. What non-Drake ship would be added? It's very obvious to me. There's two there that are screaming out to be added. Algared, I'll let you tell them what they are.
Well, based on our channel, the two that you're screaming to add to your all Drake fleet are the Crucible and the Endeavour.
Yep. Especially if you're going all Drake, so that means you're going to have a Kraken. You really need to have a Crucible to kind of keep it repaired, and the Endeavour just gives so much gameplay for the price. Yep. And then I realistically, you could even strip that question right back and go, what gameplay, if you're going all Drake, I think what he's trying to ask is, what does Drake miss? That's what I'm hearing.
Yeah.
Right. And the Crucible will be the big one, right? Because it just allows you to repair all those ships, so it adds functionality to them all. Does that mean Drake won't get their own repair ship down the line? I think they possibly will. It's one of the things I think we talked about the Caterpillar on last stream, Algared, and I said I'd be really surprised if the modules weren't something like a chop shop, a repair shop, and a refueling one. I thought might even work on.
And if it wasn't our last episode, it was certainly in our conversations.
Yeah.
Where we talked about that.
Yeah.
But in a sense, you could also say you could argue. Well, Drake do have repair facilities. They've got the ability to repair fighters on the Kraken.
This is true
because it's got the internal hangar.
Yep.
You've now got that same type of process being added to the Ironclad for vehicles, and again, the very small ships that can get in that hangar or get in that cargo bay.
Agreed.
So it does have repair, but it doesn't have anything that can fix the big ships.
Yeah. It's like we said too last week. I think Drake are very clearly becoming a generalist and like a low budget across the board generalist. Like I'm starting to think now there's not really the only thing I haven't seen yet, and I can already see where this is going to go, but a Drake science ship. And you know where that's going, right? Straight off the bat, like, woohoo! Off to the labs. Here we go. Oh, but that they will do one, I have no doubt. Maybe that's the Corvette, Algared. The Drake Corvette is a science ship.
Maybe the science labs are the modules for a Caterpillar.
I never even thought of that. That's so true. That could be another one again.
Thought of that as well. So,
it's a good one. I like that. Yeah, I like that a lot. I am the mad scientist.
Yeah. But they certainly need, it'd be nice to see Drake have their version of biodomes or...
Stan put it very well in chat. He said meth science. Yeah, that's it, meth science.
Math science, yeah. You use a lot of math in science, don't you?
Yeah, the Breaking Bads. Yeah.
It's just he's got a speech impediment, so he said math instead of math. Yeah. I get that. Yeah. But yeah, I can fully see that. But yeah, it's even with that, even though you could put a Cutlass, presumably into that internal hangar of the Kraken, because it is it's two-space hangar. It's kind of one area. So even if you could put a Cutlass into that hangar, it doesn't enable you to fix the Ironclad or the Caterpillar and do the major repairs on that. So they do need, that is the one area they're lacking, and that's those larger ships are what the Crucible does
in spades.
In its spades, yeah, in spades. So 100%, that is the ship you're missing. And then the drug lab, the telescope, the major hospital.
But I think we could also agree that just because there isn't many of those other ships, like the agriculture, the science, the super collider, there is no other ship that kind of touches on those. I think the only other one's the Sen that does science, right? That's just gameplay they've never brought out ships for. So I think you and I could also argue in the future there would be other ships that fill into that. But again, being the capital, and it's cheaper right now, is why we talk about it so much, you know. So yeah.
Oh, that, you know, you look at a Kraken, $1,000 and more. You look at an Interest, $1,000 or more. You look at a Javelin, thousands of dollars or more. You look at an Endeavour, $350 to get the base without the modules, and that's going to be a capital ship. So yeah, it's expensive, but we know it's growing. We know it's going to have the gameplay. We know it's the end goal ship. The ship they said, yeah, because of everything it can do, it's going to be one of the last ships we build.
Yeah.
And its loaner ships. Its loaner ships are worth more than its sell value. You get a Starfarer and a Cutlass Red. Yeah. So you can do all the gameplay and more because the refuel.
I think with the way we're going, I think we're going to start to see the sales for the larger ships. Now they've got more people working on the ship teams. They'll come around and you'll probably... They might even move into things like what happened with the Mercury Star Runner, where you see a 2-year turnaround. So from concept to release is only 2 years.
Yeah.
Fingers crossed. But you'll notice that there is, like, if you look up at that top end, there is a lack of bigger ships up that top end. And they've kind of said that every main manufacturer will have a big capital ship. So we don't have... We've said this previously. Things like Argo don't have one, Crusader don't have one, things like that. So there's a couple are missing. What do they provide? What are the main standings of those manufacturers? Like, for example, the obvious one is like Argo. Argo, we'll put this out way. Would you expect Argo to come out with a massive combat ship? I assume you said it was muted or something. You didn't come through.
I said no.
Yes, yeah. And I'm the same. And it's the same as Crusader. I might see a combat variant from Crusader. But yeah, I'm just kind of thinking that with the ones that are missing, like agriculture and science and stuff like that, it's more likely going to lean into one of those, hopefully. But we'll have to wait and see. Time will tell. Time will tell. And it's just exciting that there are still some very interesting ships there that we, you know, so us older backers that have been sitting around for so long, it still shows me that there are some things to hold out for that I am looking forward to. You know,
yeah.
But by the same token, you'll see ships that come along, like the Ironclad, and they've now trod on things that you've held on to for a really long time, like in the video we talked about. So,
like Caterpillar.
Yeah, it's a double-edged sword.
It is, and like I think the Mark II Hornet is the biggest one, because it really does feel like it's replaced ships that hadn't even seen the light of day, or hadn't even seen their purpose put in. They hadn't even seen their full functionality. So yeah, it is hard. The other thing with the new ships coming out is the fact that I had the thought and I've just lost it.
It's okay.
We get the ships, and there are ships that are coming. The new ships coming out. That's what it is. The older backers, and I think you touched on it. The older backers feeling that, okay, when are we getting our ship? And then we get this new ship, and because it doesn't have any of the old problems with tech or size or anything else, they can build those newer ships so much quicker. And so You get this new ship, and the rest of us are there saying, "What about my BMM? What about my cat? What about my?"
It's just getting old in general. Algared, you get replaced. You know this. That's how it works. The younger generation comes in and just replaces us all. That's right.
All right, give 500.
Then we get to build robots and replace them. It's fine. Right.
Give
Go ahead.
500. Thank you for that super chat. He says, "Evening from Blighty. How's the resting up going, Algared? Well, it's I've rested, but tried to rest, but yeah, still get the big pain in the chest all the time. I'm still feeling quite wiped at times, but yeah."
Okay, I actually had to Google that. Blighty is England. That's what it means.
Yeah.
I didn't know what he meant. I was just like, is that some kind of Australian slang? Like, I didn't know what he was talking about. But Blighty means England or Great Britain. So, yeah.
Yep, I knew that.
Yeah. Well, if you didn't as a POM, I'd be worried.
It's like, Blighty, home. Yeah, that type of thing.
I don't know. Maybe we should put a poll up for that. Should Algared get his Australian citizenship, or should he stay a POM? That'd be interesting.
Well, at the moment, I'm staying a POM because I don't need to worry about getting a visa to get into.
I don't need to get a visa either. That's the crazy thing.
And I don't, and my visa to get back in Australia was, it was expensive to get, but it wasn't. It was so easy because I'm a permanent resident. It's just, damn, Esther just done. The really annoying thing, and the thing that will probably push me to do it now, is the bloody British decided to pull themselves out of the EU. So I used, people would say, "Why aren't you becoming an Australian citizen?" I said, "Man, because I've got this EU passport. It takes me everywhere." Now I've just got this passport that gets me into the UK. Man, sucks. So, and we have another super chat, and this one is from the Distraction. It's a $10 super chat. He says, "Both. Please ask your doctors for esomeprazole, magnesium, cured my severe reflux and caused a bad sore through a cough and sharp chest pain. Algared, look at a small dose of something for anxiety. Think I'm that anxious?"
I don't know. Maybe he's thinking you're just a bit health scared, type of thing. I don't know.
Well, I suppose the zap of the heart issue has kind of.
Well, my cough has been going on for years now too. It's not really reflux related. I haven't been quite able to suss it out. It's got something to do with talking exacerbates it and makes me cough. But if I don't talk, it's totally fine. So it's something to do with asthma and my vocal cords. So I haven't quite sussed it out, but I'm on my 8th or 9th year of having it, so I'm getting there slowly. But yeah, thanks for the concern. As for acid reflux, that's just really for me is just when I eat the wrong stuff. So a lot of the lozenges and stuff actually trigger the acid reflux, but they also soothe it. So it's a backwards thing. So
that swallowing of stuff can help soothe the pain of acid reflux, but it also helps stop the problem of the cough. When I get my cough, it's very similar to Execute's. My doctors have said it's a slow drip from the back of the throat into the epiglottis, which tickles the epiglottis and causes a cough.
Yeah.
When you're not talking, you're not getting that as much, but when you start talking, you start to get the drips and other stuff. So yeah, it's a pain in the butt, but yeah.
Yeah, it's hard to as Alan in chat saying, "Hope you were both saying healthy." We try, man, but it's just you guys know as you get older, things start to go. It just sucks. It's the way of the world. Unfortunately,
I can put it into a theological frame set, but it still adds up to the same thing. We get old, things break, and it's a matter of trying to get them repaired.
Yeah. Right. You want to do the next question, mate?
The next question is Alex. Alex says, "All new ships have really aged the Freelancer design. Do you think it could go up in size and get a fresh design in the future?"
I think they said they were doing that really recently because as they're wrapping up Squadron 42, it was used in that, didn't they? And then that they were doing some touch-ups to it. This was only like a month or two ago they were talking about that. So yeah.
But I don't think we'll see it get a size upgrade.
Well, I don't think they've actually detailed exactly what they're fixing on it, but I think we can all agree it's designed for 4 crew, and I can't remember the last time I ever had 4 people on that ship. Can you, Algared? And you talk to most people, it's like a 2 to 3 max. I think the only one that needs 3 is the Misery.
They always call the. I always got frustrated. They called the. It was the Cutlass. They called the. No, they called the Caterpillar Freelancer's evil twin, and I always thought that the Cutlass was actually the Freelancer's evil twin.
Agreed.
They were roughly the same size. They had roughly the same cargo. If you looked at the base,
I think we can safely say though the Caterpillar has changed quite like it's even bigger than the Connie now. Like they're in the same landing pad, but one is the large and then the one is the subcap, and the Caterpillar is subcap. So it's grown.
Yeah, sorry, we've got that lag overplay.
It's okay.
But yeah, you're right. It really is that issue with the Caterpillar having grown. But even back in the day, the Caterpillar always had that large cargo capacity, which made it so much bigger than a standard Freelancer.
Yep.
Whereas the Cutlass always had roughly that same cargo, similar weapons. You know, even on the Freelancer ad, it wasn't a Caterpillar that came up against the Cutlass. It was against the Freelancer, it was a pair of Cutlass. So, yeah, to me, the Cutlass was always the evil twin of the Freelancer, and the Freelancer was closer, and the Caterpillar was a closer competitor to the Connie. But now it's a direct competitor in terms of cargo capacity to a Galaxy. So, yeah. But that's the way CIG named it, so hey.
Yep. All right, what's the next one? Ashhole says, do you think making large ships C2 to QT? What's the QT? What's the ship? Large ships to quantum only on a few fixed routes would be a good idea. The Halo belt is too dense for ships to easily Q2 anywhere except clear sections. So essentially what he's, if I'm reading that correctly, you tell me if I'm reading it wrong, but he's essentially like making lanes for capital ships. I think that might make the gameplay a little bit too restrictive, especially with the plans they have for scanning, because they want, you got to search and find for people. Well, if there's only, okay, let's say it's a large number of lanes, say there's only 10 lanes in an entire system, that's still going to make it so much easier to find stuff. And yeah, I think that actually makes it worse, not better, personally. But your thoughts, Algared?
No, I think I thought they had talked about setting up lanes in areas where there were the asteroid belt, so set passages that people would go through. And I think when you do a jump from a Lagrange point to a Lagrange point, that jump is actually being taking down one of those set lines. The question is, how easy are people going to be able to identify you from that? And if you wanted to avoid that, you'd fly up to X point and then do another jump.
Yeah, I think
so. That was my impression, but yeah, I think it adds to that restriction if it's just X, set points you can fly through.
I don't see the need to restrict large ships and not restrict small ships, and I don't see the gameplay benefit either way, and I don't see why would you do that when you've already got it designed so you can go anywhere. So you're actually needlessly adding more work for a derogative. Like I don't get that one. Maybe ask another question or statement there, please, Ash, and say, like, tell us why you think it's needed. What is the benefit of that? Because that's what's missing from that statement, because I don't see the benefit of it. Do you think giving them large ships a restriction for some reason makes it better for other ships? Like, that's the only thing I can think of. Like, why do you want to restrict the large ships to certain lanes? Is that just so they're easier to find, easier to attack? I don't see that as a positive. So yeah, I'll put that question back out to you, Ash, and if you can get back to us.
Yeah, I can see the point he's making in terms of he's putting that the dense is very, the asteroid belts are very dense. So large ships would have a difficulty, but if it's very dense, small ships are going to have that same difficulty, I think. for quantum travel.
But isn't that what the Aaron Halo gates are for anyway? They essentially are making like an inner ring and an outer ring, and so they're already having lanes that you've got to go through anyway.
Yeah.
So in Stanton, at the very least, you've got to have lanes, and if there isn't lanes, then don't you have to at least stops you on the outside? It's got somewhere you've got to stop to get through, to get to the other side. So you're either working within a system or on the outer. You know, you have the outer ring and the inner ring in Star Wars, or the core worlds in Star Wars. It's the same thing. It just creates an in and outside, but you have to personally navigate through the rings.
You will remember that we used to have, and I'm not sure Ash will remember. I'm not sure whether Ash was here at the time when this was the case. But when we used to quantum travel, what were the two ways you got pulled out of quantum travel? Asteroids, and pirates, or being scanned. So sometimes you got dropped out of quantum drive because there was an asteroid in the way. And that was a fun time of sometimes the asteroid appearing right in front of you and you not being able to avoid it.
I'm just thinking about the actual asteroids themselves, and I'm thinking small ships versus large, right? Small ships have the advantage where they could technically fly through the asteroid belt because there's smaller gaps, where a large ship might have to go up and over or down and under. And then because of scanning, because there's no asteroids in the way, they're easier to find. And then you can warp straight to them. And maybe because you're in the asteroid belt, you can't just go up and start warping over. You have to manually fly over them, so it takes a couple of minutes. So that maybe that's what they're going for, is like you can't warp around asteroids. You've got to get a clear field before you can warp through. Maybe that's where they're going. And the only reason I can kind of think of that is what we've seen already in the asteroid field or like around Yellow and stuff like that. But again, we'll have to wait and see. All right, so he has done another question. So we'll jump this one to the front of the queue while we're still in it. So he says, question, better for PvP, so there is more risk requiring escorts or manually traversing through right now the cargo. So essentially, without going through the whole question, he's essentially just forcing them into a narrow area to increase the PvP. I can see where he's going with that, but again, once that scanning comes online, you got to think about what if a pirate only has to go to 10 locations to find combat. He's got to do some work too, right? And his work is going to be that scanning and searching. I think is going to be they're all going to be sitting there trying to find shit. Don't you think, Algared? I don't know. Well, what's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, well, look, if you're a pirate and you're trying to force people to PvP, I personally hate that idea of I'm going to go there because I'm going to be able to get my PvP fix.
Yeah, but you're also going to want to have a deterrent, aren't you, as well? Like you're going to want to go.
You want that deterrent. If you've got that,
if I've got a whole sea and 5 escorts, you're going to think twice. But if I've got a whole and I've got like 2, you're going to go
Oh, my argument against his idea of the lanes for large ships, because the belt's too difficult. I would expect if there's a lane through the asteroid belt, that's going to be patrolled heavily.
Oh, I reckon there'll be turrets and everything.
Yeah, turrets, cops, large ships. I would say that's going to be worse to get your PvP.
But by the same token, won't there be sometimes kind of like what they said with the jumps that you could have other outpoints come out so you can arrive in a different place in the system? Also, won't there be places where there's no gate for the Aaron Holo, but there just happens to be a slight gap naturally occurring that the smugglers have found or whatever?
And that's the type of thing I understood CIG had talked about, and I think that's the type of thing where the old asteroids, you'd be flying through quantum, you'd have worked out your plat, and then all of a sudden you've got a stray asteroid, so it drops you out there. You've got to fly around that before you can reset your quantum and fly again.
Not to mention, you could also put a beacon there and fly there. So once you've found it, you can record it and know where you're going and stuff like that. And if you really so choose, sell that data to other people too. Yeah.
So I can fully see that those types of arrangements are going to be. Of course, initially there'll be 1 or 2 or maybe 3 or 4 safe passages where you can zap through really quick.
Yeah. I think the main thing with all this is let them lay out that they have planned and see it in action before you make comment. Because that's one of the things I've learned, even going all the way back to the Freelancer Windows stuff, Algared, is it might not sound good, right? But until you see it in action, and I think we can all agree, we've had things come out by now that's like, oh, this is not what I expected. This is better than what I expected. By the same token, there's things we've seen come out and they are worse I will give you that. But I think we have to at least allow them the discovery and the creation and the design of what they've been doing. Trust what they're doing. If it doesn't work, they redo it. We saw that with iCache. It didn't work, so they had to move on to other things. But yeah, sometimes it does fail. But again, that's the nature of development, and it's a creative process. And I think you got to give them that creative progress. Also, this is their full-time job. They're doing it as a team. We're all just viewing and on the sides, and we don't have all the information that they have. So we've got to give them the benefit of the doubt and let them get there.
Yep, and then give it time to ferment, because in a lot of the time they've been building the tools and the techniques behind the scenes, and everything says, oh, this will work, this will work, this will work, and then when you all put it together, it goes, yeah, it doesn't. So that does mean that at times where they go back to the drawing board and people say, oh, they've wasted development funds. No, that is development.
It's like Edison with the light bulb. He found 1,000 ways not to make a light bulb before he figured it out. And it'll be the same thing with this. Sometimes you've got to break a few eggs or with the film, all the film that hits the cutting room floor that doesn't make the movie. That's just the part of the process. And I can't tell you, Algared, no matter what I do when it's creative, there's always something I've got to clean up at the end. Always. Whether it's a 3D print or whatever, I've got to, deburr it or something like that to get all the little extras off or the brim or something like that. There's or if I'm painting, there's the leftover paint or whatever it is. There's always something that doesn't make the cut.
Your primal figure. Have a classic example.
Yeah.
So lots of times where you see that. Even authors will, once an author will, write maybe 100 pages and get, 5 pages out of it that are a good print, but a copy. So it's just process of development, process of building, it's process of doing anything.
And I think a lot of people don't like that with Star Citizen because they see it as a waste of money. But that's any creative process. It has leftovers, and I think the only one we know of that they've really had to redone was iCache. If that's one out of all the ones they've done, it's a pretty good track record. I think that kind of speaks for itself.
Oh, I don't know where Pupil to Planet came in regards to iCache, but that was another one where they went back and redid it. But again,
Bad and Merchantman might be another one too, because I'm gonna have to get people to redo that too. Now I think about it, yeah.
But when you look at the advantage of Pupil to Planet over what we had or what we were going to get, trash what you had and redo it. It that bigger change. So
agreed.
Yeah,
and it gave us better stuff in the long run.
Indeed.
Yeah. All right, Zenith 4109 says, question, do you think that they will add additional ships dedicated to data running? If so, which manufacturer and size? Well, we've got a small and a large, so medium and capital, if they decide to go that route. I think you could clearly see data running being part of a capital ship, but not all of it. And I think there's definitely room there for a medium now, though the MSR did start out as a medium, and it's grown to a large. So yeah, I find that it'd be interesting to see another one. I'm trying to think of a manufacturer. We've got Drake and Crusader. Could Argo fall into the transportation of data? Or is it a little bit outside their scope?
I think that's a bit outside their scope. MISC fall into the scope of data, mainly because of the Endeavour, because the Endeavour's got the computers for encrypting and decrypting sensitive data.
What about Mirai, or is it? I think that's probably a little bit outside their purview. But you got like you got the racing. I just see the racing tying with that works really well. So that's a possibility. I could see Argo, but it is a bit of a stretch. Just because it's a transportation, but they're not really data transportation. Again, you could also take the two manufacturers they already have and double up, so you could have another Crusader or another Drake.
You could look at any of the science vessels. So again, MISC with the Reliant. Because of Reliant and its science, you could say, okay, that's you're gathering your data. That also brings again Drake with their science vessel, the Corsair. That also then brings in RSI with their science vessel, the It brings in Aegis with their science vessel, and it's got computers, which is where you store your data. So for Carrot,
Actually, I just realised technically there's the Raven as a data runner.
it is.
But that's also
Right,
a small.
right, that was your small.
It is a small. So we'll technically got the Herald and the Raven.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's really interesting though, I think, because we've kind of got two smalls doubled up.
And if you take the science vessels as being data runners as well, because they're gathering the data, that chucks the % in there as well. So
yeah, but they're not. They're more like data collection rather than storage. So storage and transportation is generally have a lot bigger storage, like a lot more data. Where things like the Carrack are just the collection part of it, and so they would load that off onto another ship, and that would only be a small percentage of the entire thing. Also, it limits their collection ability too, and also a lot of the data runners can't actually collect the data; they can only transfer it.
Yeah.
So it's a dependency.
Yeah. So you've got that end, but yeah, I can see the Endeavour being the end point of data running.
Yep.
Or the start point, because it's like the encryption of and decryption of stuff if it's set up right. Yep. But yeah, there's a whole host of different ships. Which manufacturers? Yeah, I think you've just covered it. They can go anywhere, but they could double down on.
Well, that's just it. At the end of the day, they can do whatever they want. They've changed things so many times. Like Crusader example is a really good one. You know, they upended that whole law, and I know that drives you nuts, but that kind of proves my point, right? They can do whatever they choose to do.
Yep. Just wherever hole they think that's they can do. By the way, X, you're looking particularly blue today. What's going on?
What do you mean? What do you mean? I got a red shirt on. What are you talking about?
Yeah, I guess I'm just seeing things, but yeah.
Okay, cool. Right, JB. Hey, it's my initials. Thought of the Hull D being next for MISC. Hold the door sounds like hold D door, according to some posts on Reddit and Spectrum. Yeah, hold D, hold door, hold the door. Yeah, that actually does. That's got a lot of merit. Yeah,
saying it looked like a MISC corridor. So yeah.
Yeah, maybe it's not. Yeah, that's true. I never actually thought of it like that. So yeah, maybe they are working on the whole D.
Whole D door. Whole D door, yeah. And that would be 2 steps removed.
Personally, I would have liked to seen the B before the D, but that's just me.
Yeah.
The B, I think the B is at a better sweet spot, if you know what I mean. Like it's just kind of in that middle area. That sounds stupid because it is in the middle area between the A and the C, but you know what I mean. Like it's the biggest one that can land, with the cargo, and I think that's going to be a benefit and a boon to that whole series. And once it goes up past that, you're kind of losing the price to cargo capacity requirement, and then you're going into ships where it's enclosed and the price jumps quite significantly. So yeah.
100% agree. Yeah. Timble has a question, and I'll give you the answer now. The answer is yes. Their question was, did you guys get lodging situation squared away for CitizenCon?
Yeah. So
yeah, that was the first thing we did.
It was the first thing we got knocked out because we were worried about that more than the flights, because we knew we had like 6 months for the flights, and you really only got to book like within 3. Algared's still got like a month left to book his before they start to go up in price. But yeah, we got somewhere. I wanted to get somewhere close because I was worried about Algared having to walk there all the time because of his health problems at the moment.
I think that was a good pick.
Yeah, and I got my mum on it as well. My mum's a very she travels quite a bit, and she's very savvy with her spending. And she had a look, I had a look, and between the two of us, I found, I don't remember what it was called, but it's very close.
Locations, and then went. Eeny, meeny, miny, mo, and looked at the advantages of both, and the one we went for, that's really close.
It's about, what was it, 650 each, and we're sharing a room for I think it's like 7 nights. So yeah,
we will either hate each other.
yeah. Well, that week's going to be what we make it. I'm going to snore through the whole thing, and Algared's just going to be like,
The channel dies after CitizenCon because we hate each other.
Yeah. Nah, we'll be right. We've only got to sleep there, so it'll be fine.
But yeah, it looked like a really good It looks like a really good location for us to
Mm.
base. It's close to the venue. It also looked like it had good facilities for us to actually be able to do
An interview or two if we had to, yeah.
an interview or two, or even collabs with some of the other
Content creators,
Inforunners or content creators who are there. So it's the type of thing we're hoping to do. So
that's right. Limited respawns offered his bedroom. I'll come down to London for a couple of days, so I'm going to be there for 26 days.
Okay.
So I'll come down and stay at your place. I'm going to bring John with me, so me and John will come down and stay with you. John, take his name and number, John. Get that down.
Yeah. I'll make sure I pass down that way as well. So thanks, Limited Respawns.
We appreciate that. Party at Limited Respawns. Everyone's invited. Let's go. Yeah.
Yeah. He's going to hate us now. Duranovsk says, what do you make of the current test servers news that a C2 takes 5 hours to autoload?
Yeah, that's kind of what I was talking about. Like, you can click, people are losing their minds over it, but it's clearly early days. It's like they've just implemented the first thing, like bare minimum, and what's the next level. And that's what I was talking about. Like, it's clearly not going to be the same across the board. And people are like, if you think these people are so dumb that they haven't thought of this, come on, that's almost insulting. So loading a single SCU cargo with a tractor beam pretty much takes the same amount of time as it does to load a 32. So eventually, if you just have really big cargo containers, let's be honest, that's why the whole sea has those bigger cargo containers, is to speed up the loading. So they know this, and that it'll be adjusted accordingly. Again, you got to build it in pieces, because if you just go straight to the end, you'll have all these bugs across the place. Where if you build it in stages, you can keep it bug free. It's all about limiting the problems.
Indeed.
Yeah.
And it's just going stage by stage, level by level.
Well, let's look at it in a simple way, Algared. If I gave you a jigsaw piece, and then I gave you the very next piece that connects to that piece, and kept feeding you the piece that connects to the next piece, is that easier, or I just chuck all 5,000 pieces at you?
Oh, it's definitely easier. Might be boring, but it's definitely easier.
Exactly, and that's my point.
And I think that's the problem we get. We see this and we go, this is boring, it's taking too long. Well, suck it up.
Yeah. Good things take time.
But good things take time. So they also do want loading to factor into the profit margins.
Yeah.
Yes, you've got a big ship, and yes, you make millions of credits in a single run.
Well, that instantly gives a reason for the smaller ones to exist, does it not?
Yeah, it does. It means suck it up. You and your big ship are not going to be making billions of dollars in a single night, because you can't do 15 runs.
I'm not going to crack out my Banner Merchantman to literally deliver cargo from the space station to the planet when it's small enough that I can just do it on a whole B.
Yep.
Right ship for the right job. That's what it's for.
Yeah. 100%. But it ties into all of those factors, doesn't it? The ship for the right job. I think part of the complaints people are having is the fact that they can't do 15 runs on a lucrative.
It's that I had it this way and I want it to stay this way. It was good. Why are you changing it? Because it's not. I was
making lots of money. That's right.
Yeah. Again, it's got to tie into the whole game's got to tie together.
Yeah.
I think honestly, once you actually get that physicality in, it's going to make it stand apart from every other game. Like even the ones that we've talked about, like the one I'm thinking of at the moment right now is Evo, where you had the stockpiles and stuff, but you could literally just drag it from one stockpile to the other, and it would just go poof and appear. That physicality of actually having to physically move it from one point to the other. Oh boy, are you going to plan that? You are not going to go, oh shit, halfway through and stop and then undo it.
Yeah,
because it'll take hours.
It'll take too much time. Yeah. Absolutely. And and having a smaller ship, but you load in 30 minutes, or versus the capital ship, you load in 5 hours. Depending on what you're doing, is going to depend on
how you do, and it's how you make those choices matter. Like if you can just instantly undo a choice, what does it matter? But if it actually has got real, I don't want to say real world consequences because it's not the real world, but you know what I mean? But if it's got real consequences, You're going to think about your actions, and you're not going to stuff around. You're not going to want to risk any of that stuff. You are going to want to get escorts, and you're going to want to get good escorts. You're not just going to get Jerry from down the road and you find out Jerry's shit. You're going to want to get a really good one. You're going to care about your rating, and you're not going to stuff around other players because they will stuff with your rating. If you stuff up, you're a 5-star and you did a subpar job, oop, there goes your star rating because someone ranked you a 1. Because you lost all. Yeah, but by the same token, if they wrote you down and you went, oh, he refused to pay me, you're not going to stuff with each other because you're not going to want to stuff each other's stars. It's exactly what happens on eBay and stuff like that. People really give a shit about their 100% rating, as an example, because they don't want to screw it over. And there'll eventually be some customer that gets screwed over by something that's outside their control, though, and their rating will drop. It's just it's just a part of how it is. But people are going to want to try and stay in that 90 percentile as much as possible, and it'll be no different in this game.
And people look at the negative ratings and make a judgment. You know, oh, this person didn't pay me because blah blah blah. Or this person, you know, a bad rating on an escort. This person was useless. They didn't do this. And you read all the others, and they say, yeah, okay, in the situation, they this escort. I hired this one fighter to protect my cargo, and they couldn't defend me against 50 fighters. Well, you go, okay, yeah, that's not on them. That's you just didn't employ enough people.
Yeah. So this has all been planned from the day dot, and I don't think they've really, at least to you, Algared, and me, I don't think they've really said anything really outside the scope of that they haven't been saying for like the last decade. And I just wish it's so. The thing I'm realizing, Algared, is we've had the benefit of absorbing it over time, and you get so many new content creators that come in now, even ones that came in after us, say 4 to 5 years after us, and they miss things because they just didn't have the time to go back through and absorb it all. Even just sitting there to absorb 12 months of stuff is quite hard. Yeah, and then try and do that over 12 years. It's just impossible.
That really struck me when Expat was on the a couple of weeks ago. You know, and she was asking questions about stuff that we just took for granted. And I was like,
I think you and I have seen that quite a bit in the last, say, 5 years. There's a lot of things like, there's episodes me and Algared called low-hanging fruit, and it's been really obvious to us. We're just like, but isn't that obvious? And just more and more episodes like that where people say, can you do something about this? And we do them because we realize there are a lot of people that don't understand that stuff. And I think it's...
For us, it is easy.
Well, it is. It's super easy for us. It's like it's the most lazy episodes we do, right? And I think it's the CIG when they go back and do stuff for new people is great. So almost like the IC that they did this week. But it's also about timing. And I think the main thing for me was the timing was off. Like after you've had a month off, like essentially we've made it a month and a half, and we want to know about the game. And I don't know, I'm getting this feeling, Algared, we're already in not hearing. I could be wrong, right? I could be completely wrong, but I get the feeling we're holding things off for CitizenCon already. We just had 6 months of them talking about the previous CitizenCon, and now we're not hearing about the next one because they're holding it off for the next one. Does that mean the 6 months after CitizenCon this year will be more of them talking about the same shit for 6 months? So yeah. It's worrying.
In a sense, I didn't mind the way they did the talking about the stuff from CitizenCon because they gave us many times. They gave us more detail. They fleshed it out.
Yeah,
they talked about.
That's true.
This is what we showed at CitizenCon. This is where we've gone. This is where it's headed.
Agreed.
So I quite like that. I don't mind the way they're doing the behind the scenes development stuff, and I thought this week's was, in some sense, better than last week's because it was looking at development, the process of development, which was one of the things they used to do. And that was like that content they gave us in Inside Star Citizen this week was literal, and even the week before, they were both literally the type of things they used to do all the time. The previous week was kind of like the lunchtime happy hour type thing where everyone would just gather around and just talk and talk about what they were doing, where they were. This week was kind of, hey, this is where we're going, this is how we do it. But that's the type of stuff we used to get all the time. But as you said, it's stuff we've heard. You and I have heard it probably half a dozen times over the years.
I worked it.
Yeah.
I lived and breathed it, so it's probably even worse for me. But I am at least self-aware enough to know that I am in a very much a minority there. But I also question, this is the other part, how many people actually care about that? So that cuts the audience a bit. How many people came for, there was the quiet period, they came back for the news and they got that. So there's diminishing returns is what I'm trying to say. And I just think it was the timing was off. If you'd done a big news episode and then did that the following week, totally fine. But to do two of them in a row and now knowing there's another one coming, I'm just like, so if we don't do ISC next week, don't be surprised, because we did the first week and I went, this was terrible, and I didn't actually watch it, I just flicked through it like that and I went, nah, this is going to be terrible. And then I watched it later and I reckon it'll be the same next week, because there's just nothing in there to pull out that you can't learn from watching the episode yourself. There's nothing for me and Algared to talk about, essentially.
And it'll be a very quiet episode. Yep, I remember that. I think the difference is, and one of the things I just thought of is, when was the last time they actually talked about level design? It's probably 2 or 3 years.
Yeah, so, it's always time between. Well, how often do they talk about the audio team? Every 3 or 4 years we get an audio team talk, and everyone falls asleep. But the audio team deserves their time in the sun. I don't disagree with that. But again, it's about timing. Like, they used to always have this CitizenCon, and then they'd have the holiday stream, and then they'd have 2.5 to 3 months off, and then they'd come straight back with the audio team, and people would be like, because it's no one cared. That's the last thing you want to see, is the first thing back is that, and they learned after a while not to do that, and they'd kick it down the road a bit.
Yeah, I think the thing that makes it so frustrating is that back in the day, we would get Bug Smashers as a show, a weekly show or a fortnightly show, where they'd go for the bugs at hand. We'd get our weekly Inside Star Citizen equivalent. So we'd get that show. We talked about the development of the person around the verse. We'd get the introduction to the staff with them. So they'd do different shows. They basically had a show every day that did a different aspect. And that all got funneled into one weekly show, and that meant you lost that variety. And so there used to be always something for somebody every week. Now it's not there as clearly, and that makes it hard. You get your weekly stuff still, but it's imagine a show where you used to get the Galaxy Report, the Lawmaster's Guide to the Galaxy was a regular show for a while. We now get that as a Spectrum post once a month, where they update the Galactopedia or give us a 10 questions. It's different.
Right.
I it was better in the day.
Z on YouTube says, with the recent Drake spree of development, do you think we'll see yet another Cutlass overhaul in the near future using recent development assets? You want me to go first?
Yep.
No. It's not a priority. It's been reworked twice. Recent stuff they did with it was just putting the tractor beam in the back, which kind of tells me that it's at a place. They've got other priorities, other ships that need to be completed and done. It's at a 90% state. It does not need to be redone. And the things that are wrong with it are probably more code based than 3D model based.
Yeah, I was thinking it didn't need to be redone. Like I thought it was in a good place.
For the longest time it totally floored the Freelancer, and now the Spirits come in, and I'd still say they're pretty close to each other. Just one that's newer. So you take the new features on that one and put them, and they went back and put the little switches and screens and that inside the color. So they've already done that. It's pretty much on par.
Yeah. So I tend to think it doesn't need an overhaul. It might need polish at times.
Every ship in the game is going to need that polish. Yeah. But it just the Spirit just looks newer and shinier because it is newer and shinier. But eventually, when they go back and add those things, it's going to be on par.
And you look at every MMO game you've ever played. Major patch comes out, and over time you see, they've touched up these characters, or they've touched up his skill or they've touched up his animation. It's going to be the same.
Absolutely.
If you think it's not going to be the same, your head's cut. So yeah.
Joram Ricker.
Joram Ricker said, go. Yep.
The patch notes mentions implementation of a system and content players to physically load and unload cargo to and from their ships by conveying cargo to and fro from hangars, landing pads, garages, and docking collars. Is there something known about manual loading and docking collar, like an external weight or elevators? Well, how do you load stuff onto a hammerhead from a station? I think that kind of tells you your answer there. And if you go look at the docking areas, there are similar things to what's in the hangars for those bigger ships. So you are going to have to take the cargo down and load it onto the ship and stuff. And that is the disadvantage of having a ship that can't connect to a space station in a normal manner, right?
Yeah.
So those bigger ships are really, their disadvantage is they really want to land. And if they can't land, that is their massive disadvantage. They can only go to space stations, and they're a bitch to reload because you have to reload them through a space dock.
Yeah.
That's just how it is. That is the nature of everything's going to have a plus and a minus. And their minus is clearly set up time to leave. But once they're out there, they're way more sufficient and they'll be out there for a lot longer. But also, here's the other thing. What's to say if they come back to a station? Why can't you say, for example, and I'm just going to chuck a ship out there, take a Caterpillar that's full of cargo and go out and resupply that Kraken? Totally valid. You know, so the ship doesn't have to come home to a space station. That's the other benefit.
Some ships will be better at doing that resupply of a capital ship or another ship. We know that the whole sea gets used by the army to resupply stuff. So yeah, that ties perfectly in with what you just said. So
right. So just to Riot asks a completely valid question that's relevant to what we're saying here. So he says, how do you load things into the middle section of a Freelancer? So the Freelancer is a docking collar on the top. Any top docking collars like the Reclaimer or the Freelancer are a holdover, right? It's the same. And I'll give you an example. The Retaliator had its on the bottom, and it's been moved to the side now. So you're going to see a lot of the reworks. That's what's going to happen. The docking collars are going to move or change into the Metrics docking collar system, which is the ones, there's now only two size docking collars. There's the small and the large, or small and capital, right? And so you'll see them go back and rework a lot of those. But to get to my point, is it won't be hard to reload. Yeah. Because it'll be able to dock with other ships. They've got to dock side on, and the whole main reason for that was for AI. It was too much for the AI to do all these different animations, where if they're all on a single horizontal plane, it just simplifies everything. It's the same reason why they removed all the crawl spaces from ships, because if you think about having AA walking, it's essentially a smaller surface area, but as soon as you go prone, they're lying down and all their legs are going through things and all that. It's too much complicated shit to work out because of where all the legs and arms go. Up here, it's a smaller surface area and there's just less things as it walks around for it to bump into, so to speak.
Yeah.
I hope that clarifies.
That's why we have spaces instead of crawl spaces, 100%.
Yeah.
I think with the cargo, I even remember when they had the round cargo, like on the Freelancer, they actually resized every one of those at one point so you could make sure you could get a regular SCU cargo container through those while you're carrying it.
I do want to also point out, sorry to kind of interrupt, but people are talking about the Bengal in Twitch chat, and I think you could also relate to this to Javelin and a few other ships like the Idris as well. You got to remember, a lot of those bigger ships can land on them or in them, and that changes it drastically. You don't need to have them to dock. The ones where it's going to really affect are things like the Hammerhead, the Perseus, and the Polaris, because the Polaris can land, the Hammerhead can land, but as soon as you're docking them with a station, it's a very slow reload or resupply, because it's all got to go through the docking collar, right? Where a Hammerhead, like if you... Sorry?
not the Polaris.
Well, actually, technically
It's
correct,
got a
because of
hangar.
you could land a whole A in it probably. But then I'd have to think about
But
that.
then
It might not be
unloading a whole A might make it
it
difficult.
might
getting
be
cargo,
yeah, you might bring a couple of ships up to resupply it, but you get my point, right? As soon as you've got a docking collar and you don't have a way to get into the ship, it restricts it. But by the same token, there's not as much resupply required for something as a hammerhead. It's just got like essentially a rover size. Well, it's a bit bigger than a rover size, but you get what I mean, right? Like it's not going to be as long as you think it is. So every ship's going to have its plus and minuses, and it leads to that player choice you and I talk about all the time, and that makes every ship interesting and unique and beneficial. So
Yep, and it's players picking the ship that best suits the job they want to do at that time, and it's all of that. So yeah, I've got nothing else to add to that point. You summed it up perfectly.
Yeah, Just Right also said you could use an MPUV. Absolutely, to load into a Polaris, you could as well. But again, once it gets into the hangar, you have to have people take it from the hangar down to the cargo bay. So there is a negative because you're taking cargo internally through the ship, right? So
that is also a point where the 890 Jump comes in as a better ship than some of those, because it's actually got cargo space around its hangar as well as its lower cargo space. So that actually gets an advantage. I could see that being a ability to speed up loading.
Yeah, but I think we can kind of say no matter what ship you've got in this game, and there'll be a few that it doesn't come into, obviously, but if it's not cargo, it's going to be data, right?
Yeah,
they are going to be the two, I guess, fuel and ammo, excuse me, as well. But every ship is going to have some kind of management thing that it's going to have to maintain. And cargo is probably the real big one because it's physicalized. Data is just going to be a timer. I'm uploading file to you, Algared. Here you go. You know.
Here's one for our miners.
There you go.
You go out and spend time mining and loading up. Now you come back to base and you're selling off your cargo. You've got to offload it.
Yep. Or did you sort it so you've got more of it, and you got to refine it and all that type of stuff. So you can start to see the game has a lot more complexity. It's not just A to B anymore, and I'm here for all that, and I know you are too, Algared. Like it's not just the simpleness anymore. It gives the time investment, and some people are going to absolutely hate that thing. Like the people are all like, look at games that came out like Elite and Dangerous, and they're saying it doesn't matter that you could get in and walk around your ships and all that, and Star Citizen's proven that it does make a massive difference. And again, I think that they call it fidelity, but the actual tactile feel and actually physically having to do it, it's not just, remember World of Warcraft, you'd walk out and go, I'm mining or I'm doing something, and it was just a bar. It meant nothing. It just became it literally became grindy, that I think if you're physically doing something over and over, but physically doing it, not just sitting there and waiting, I think that's going to add to it. And not only that, you can then go physically do this activity, and if you get sick of that, then you can physically do another activity. So it changes what you're doing, and it's not all the same. It's not just all these bars, because realistically, if you look at using World of Warcraft again, what is the difference between it playing a pick animation and me making cloth animation? There is none. It is the same shit over and over and over. It's just playing a different animation. There's no difference. It's just that the outcome is different.
My nephew used to do have a bot for World of Warcraft where his character would run around farming nodes, and he'd just have it running in the background.
Yep.
Because he was a dirty, rotten cheat. But he'd have it running in the background and go to work and come home.
That's the crazy thing. How are you going to bot that in Star Citizen? Please tell me. How are you going to bot that? Like, that is going to be ridiculously hard to bot. Like, how? Like, good luck. If you can write a bot that can do that, it's pretty much real AI. So,
if you can write the bot to do that, then CIG are probably going to be knocking on your door and saying, "Come and work for us."
yeah, probably. But
work on this problem for us. But
so it's just interesting. We'll see how it comes out, and all the things that we've talked about with not just us but other Inforunners past and present, over the years. I just don't think there isn't anything that they can't do now. Once server meshing is in, it really is that last big hurdle, and everything we've seen in the last 12 months is just more and more positive. Every test they do, it looks better and better. I think we're getting there. I think we're rounding the curve, and I think I don't know about you, Algared, but I'm pretty much at that point now where I can safely say there's nothing holding this game back now.
I honestly really have always thought the game was going to make it. Didn't know
likewise.
how it was going to make it, but it's now those high lofty goals that everyone said were impossible.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's now reachable.
CIG is like, hold my beer.
Yeah, hold my beer. Yeah, it's literally, you can't do it. Yeah, they say challenge accepted. You know, it's a challenge accepted. Yeah, I'm coming to do it, and that's what they've been like the whole time. If someone says you can't do it, they go, yeah, watch. Yeah, bullshit. You know, it's literally their approach. We're doing it.
And I think the whole gaming community is better off for it as well. Like, we've seen things, tech that they've already made years ago.
Yep.
People have left CIG, and that tech is already trickling down to other, and that knowledge is trickling down to other development.
No, I 100% agree with you. I think we're seeing that in the gaming development as gamers leave or developers leave. They may not be able to take the whole code.
Yep.
Or use the code.
Just the concept, though, is enough.
Just the concept. Just the ability. Yeah. Hey, this concept, and people say, oh, you can't do it. And they could say, yeah, well, no, you can. Because it's been done. It's just... the second you know it's done, the second you know it can be done, that's going to push people to outside to explore and push harder.
It's the same thing with server meshing. It's taken them X number of years to pull it off, but that's not to say that someone else... Well, imagine if, say, Epic Games turned around and added essentially what server meshing tech is into Unreal Engine 5. Holy shit. Like, that is just that'll just take over. And why wouldn't they take something like that and try and add that into their own engine? Because it's already been concepted. It's a proven thing that works. It's just that they have to make it work for their engine. But if they did, it is one of the most popularly used engines. And I'm talking about Unreal in general here. I'm not just talking about the versions. But like, if you then go out and you want to build an MMO, and they're like, oh, by the way, you can use Unreal Engine now to build MMOs, and they're all seamless. There's no load screens. And imagine the World of Warcraft remake, and it's remade in Unreal Engine 5, and you're standing in Orgrimmar, and it doesn't lag like shit. Or one of the capital cities, and it doesn't lag like shit. You know?
And it also ties in with the whole idea of blank again.
Senior moment. We need like a soundbite that we play every time you tune out.
Oh, it's also the fact that, you know, I didn't really sleep that well last night, so I'm running on no sleep. You know what you were like yesterday with no sleep?
Yep. I can't
you
give you shit.
Come and see me on the stream.
I can't even give you shit for that one at all. So yeah.
But yeah, I'm just going to leave it. I'll probably remember it later. But I've just gone blank.
All right, so let's move on to the next one. Yeah, go ahead.
Hi guys. Star Citizen Live Making Missions 2 is up. I just watched it before. They discussed about cargo missions and answered some questions. They probably put it up while we started our stream. So
it was up. It was up before we started, but yeah, I haven't watched it yet. I'm gonna be honest. I don't watch a lot of them now because they don't tend to have anything in them. I tend to watch, say, something like Noobifire's synopsis, or short version, and that. Because again, it's an hour of my time, and I've got better things to do because there's just not enough content in those shows. They are not what I'm looking for. I'm much better at the ISCs when they actually have content. That is. But not every show's for everyone.
I'll watch those shows, and that's what I used to like about Star Citizen, when they used to have all the shows all the time.
Yeah,
and like Bug Smashers was never a show for everybody.
Yep, agreed.
And there are times I'd watch it and I had no idea what they were talking about because it was just gibberish.
Yep.
But I also enjoyed watching it at times because it actually showed, this is the problem I've been having. This is why I've been having it. This is how they solved it. And you saw sometimes the depth that they had to go into to find the problem.
Yep. Well, it's other things too, like when they take 15 minutes to introduce everybody, like it just
Yeah.
things like that. It's
Yep.
like like my name's
Give me
John.
a start point.
My name's John. My name's Jeff. His name's Algared. His name's Execute. Dang, go. Like
Yeah.
that's it. You don't need to know their life story and what they had for lunch and where they went to the toilet and all that type of stuff. It just
Yep.
it just takes too long. So yeah. Hennypeg says, speaking of flair, what flair can be stuck on a ship's dashboard? I see bobblehead armor and the flags. Any others? Also some ships having hangar flare slots. What flair is that? I haven't seen any. Algared, I'll let you take that because that's more than else.
I would expect it to be bobbleheads and flags if the hanger for any of the dashboard flare.
Yep.
I know bobbleheads were one of the things they talked about years ago as being a thing that was going to come for ships. So yeah,
I wouldn't be surprised if it doesn't go further down the line too. You even get ones for weapons and stuff like that. And,
pot plants.
Yep, pot plants as well.
Pot plants, cups. I could see cups being that type of stuff. So cups, flowers,
the
pots,
fuzzy dice, that type of thing as well.
Fuzzy dice, plush toys.
Yep. Anything they can sell you cosmetically, they will. I've got no doubt.
A chocolate bar.
A chocolate bar,
can of drink. Yeah.
Sorry, you're just cutting out a little bit. That's all. Just letting you know.
A Buster bar put onto the dashboard. Yeah, I could see that. Yeah. But whether they allow that to be put in as hanger flare, I don't know. But it's stuff we'll see.
Okay,
Chris.
Considering that the Reclaimer lost its claw and became a straw, will the Crucible lose its repair arms and become a pair of repair beams? I don't think we've seen everything the Reclaimer has to offer yet. Let's wait and see until that's fully out. I think we're in a middle ground at the moment, as in they just wanted to get it working. So because it had taken so long, what's there is because they knew that had been there for too long and not did anything, but that's far from what the final thing's going to be. I think we have to kind of wait till they come back around again. As for the Crucible, I think it will use the arms. I think if it didn't use the arms, I think it would go to drones, much like base building and drones. Algared, would you kind of agree with that? They would, if they lose the arms, it would go to drones instead.
Yeah, well, it's already got drones, so I could see that. I could see them moving further away from the claw and that mainly because we see the MPUV tractor having tractor beams instead of a claw. I could see that coming across to the Crucible, although with the Crucible I didn't think it had claws per se, but automated spray arms or arms you control. So
it's just got
a remote arm that you can use to spray.
It's just 3D printing arms and spray arms. That's all it is.
Yeah.
It's no big deal. Again, if it's player controlled, it's even easier. Believe it or not.
And so it's either like a remote turret position where you use to spray it, or it's an automated drone attached to the arm, which
that's it. Yeah.
So I don't see a problem with that.
It's essentially a drone with restricted movement because it's got to move within the confines of its arm. That's it.
Yeah. So I don't see that being a problem for a Crucible.
Agreed.
Alex, any chances Chris sells a company to one of the big players after launch? Seems like the tech they are developing would be highly prized in the industry.
I think it's more likely.
More likely they sell the tech.
I don't think they would sell the tech. I think they would try and license the tech. That's where the most money is. The other part of that would be until someone else copies it. Look how many years it took them to do it. I think you could safely say it's going to take someone at least half as long to do it because, again, it's been proven. They know what works and what doesn't work, so they can go straight to the end goal, but it took them so long to get there. And it's a foundational thing. It's got to be there at the bottom. So even taking what I said about the Unreal tournament engine, you would have to rebuild the whole base, and then parts in the middle have to be slotted in to fit with that. So again, you know, a traditional MMO, it's done on range. This one's done on range plus on containers. So that means all the stuff above that has to be reconfigured. It's a massive rework to get that all to work. And again, a traditional single player game is not going to need all that shit. It doesn't need all that stuff. So you almost need a version of it that works with that and not with that, because there are certain people that are going to just not want to deal with all that shit when they don't need to for a single player game. So it's a lot of work. Yep. It's a lot of work to integrate that into an engine.
You will remember, I'm sure, and this is going back many years, when Elite first came out and people were saying, oh, why didn't you do the same thing that Elite's done? And Chris said, well, in retrospect, we could have. We made a choice to basically use this engine, and knowing that we were going to develop, and the engine we chose gave us a start point that we could build off. Yep. They had their engine, and they made choices based on where they were going, and so they said, we're going to finish the game and then fill in other bits as we go. Chris's view was, we're going to take our engine. We're going to look at what things we want to add, and we're going to build those tools and that background infrastructure first before we fill out the game.
And that's one disadvantage to the Unreal Tournament, is if you build anything on their engine, they have rights to that tech, which was the same thing. That was the whole reason why Crytek took CIG to court, because they were meant to be giving these technological updates to Crytek, but because they'd moved engine to be with Amazon, they now give them to Amazon, not to Crytek.
And Crytek was saying you've reneged, and it got proved that they didn't.
Yeah. And so it's the same thing. So if they'd made it an Unreal Tournament, all those advantages would have been going to Unreal and Epic Games. And I think now it's the Star engine. It's even now been separated off from Amazon, so they can keep all their own tech. That's the whole advantage of what's happened. So there's some deal they've made there with Amazon. I don't know what it is, but there's some deal. Maybe it was just for the sound or something like that, you know, the sound engine or whatever it was. But whatever tech because we know that the sound engine stuff made it into New World, right? So maybe they helped them out there, and so in the return they gave them a copy of the engine, and so now it's Star Engine, and so they can keep all that and license the shit out of it, and they may even license it back to Amazon. We don't know. But again, there's some legalities there we don't quite know, but it's just interesting.
It could even be the solving of the server issues where we lease you our tech, but you lease us our servers.
Dev Factor's correct, actually. The Lumberyard did go open source, so that means it's free now to anyone. He's right. I forgot about that.
So,
but again, being their own engine now, that would have been, if they'd been with Unreal Tournament, Epic Games would have got all this development, and Epic Games would have reaped the rewards, not CIG. So yeah, I just wish it'd be cool if they could somehow copyright it, but you can't copyright the idea of that thing. It's too complicated, so someone just has to copy it, and it'll be there. It'll take time, but there's a reason why Asmongold did a video on it, and he literally talked about it being the future of gaming engines, because it is. Like, once a concept like that works, and we saw it when the first MMOs came around, they were new tech when they came around, weren't they? You know, the whole distance thing. Up until that point, it had just all been the one distance, all the same across the board. The only thing they had difference was LODs. This whole concept was sending less information the further away you got.
Well, you see that with the 32-bit or the 64-bit or whatever it was maps.
Yeah.
You know, the maps on all games used to be 8 by 8 kilometers, and you would have loading screens. I can remember WoW, you know, EverQuest, you'd do a zone, and you literally would port into the new zone. You know, as time went on, that disappeared, but you can still see where those loading zones are, or those borders are.
The when we first played Arena Commander, the actual joystick with your, you know, the further you got towards the edge of the zone, eventually your hand and the joystick were no longer lined up because everything was desyncing as you got to those extreme edges of the map. And that's one of the reasons why they went to 64-bit, because it just removed any of that, and the size of the maps were greatly increased. And we've seen the 64-bit engines come in now across the board. I'm not saying they invented them, right? But there are so many more games that do it now, because that is one of the big benefits. It's just so much more accurate.
I think you could I don't think they invented it, but they certainly cracked it. Because I can remember, you know, the evil.
I think it's one of the ones that where they rode other people's coattails as well. They were up there doing it with other people. Yeah.
I'm not saying they were doing it by themselves, but they certainly were one of the first to crack it.
Agreed.
And it was certainly something people were doing. But I can also remember there were people out there and main people who were complaining and calling Star Citizen a scam, and you know the one individual I'm referring to, who were claiming you cannot do large maps. It is a mathematical impossibility. You cannot go beyond this size because of the desync.
Yeah.
Well, that's been proven wrong ages ago.
Well, it's
now standard.
Well, we're not probably going to see much before. I don't want to swallow my own words here, but we're probably not going to see much more beyond 64-bit, because now they're redoing the whole of computers and going into quantum computing, which is essentially like going from 2-bit or binary to 6-bit. And that you can already see the combinations there is drastically huge. If you can save 6 different states instead of 2, that changes everything, because the combos go out way higher at 6 than 2. You know, and you don't have to record all these massive binary strings. You can literally have way shorter strings for the same amount. So data storage goes down, the speed increases because then there's less things you've got to read. All that, there's massive benefits to that. And yeah, I don't think people quite understand how drastically it's going to, and it's again, if you look at a string of data or just 1 megabyte of data, and then look at it between a normal, like you can physically pull it up on the screen and see that it's like 100 pages long, and then you literally look at the same thing but done in quantum computing, and it's literally a third the size, and you go, I now start to understand it, because that's 1 megabyte of data, and then when you go up to like, what are some of the games we're installing at the moment, 30 gigabyte. So even if the download's half the size at 15, and then it's got to run, you get where I'm going pretty quickly, right? Like everything gets compressed and sped up because of it.
Yep, I'm just looking at an
chat?
old. No, there is a super chat.
Yep. Alex says, curious, are you guys planning on any changes to your channel once Squadron and eventually Star Citizen launches? Live playthroughs, mission reviews, tips, etc. Love the channel. Appreciate you guys. Yes, everything you just said.
Yep.
One of the reasons we looked into the professional point of view series is because we realized the game's going to be so big, there's no way we can cover it all. You know, so we'll bring in someone that's a specialist at mining, and we'll do episodes and tips with them and get them, you know, give them their time in the sun and get them to talk about it and stuff. And they'll be our mining guy. And then we'll get a pirate guy in and blah, blah, blah. We're going to go through all that and pull in as many people as we can, because there's no point. The game's too big. You guys are already knowing this, trying to hold it all in your heads. I don't know what it's like for you guys, but me and Algared are starting to have more and more trouble. I don't know if that's because we're getting older, but
well, that's because we're getting older or tired or sicker or whatever.
Yeah,
we do go for all of that.
But yeah, so we're going to share the load. Long story short.
And if you look at the history of this show was originally going to be our gameplay.
Yeah. It was just going to be me and Algared taking a few questions, and it's just evolved.
While we played the game, and
now it's just
you
us.
guys complained that we.
It's a weird stream. Let's be honest. We're the only people on Twitch right now that are talking heads. Everyone else says, well, they might be a talking head, but they're playing the game. And it blows my mind that there is this many people here just listening to me and Algared take questions when they could be off watching someone play the game. But I don't know. Maybe that's what's the good thing about ours. Maybe it's because we are a bit different. Yeah.
But we did start. The original idea was we would play the game and talk and take questions. And over time, it just didn't work. People complained about you for playing the game or making noise or distracting me while I was answering questions. And people who were watching the game would complain about me because I wouldn't be doing my job on the turret or doing whatever I was doing because I'd stop. And in the end, it was just, stop this. Let's just answer the questions. That's what they want. So, yeah.
Another super chat there from Distraction. Let me just read this. So Distraction says, when he's done a super chat, when we get repair, how long do you think it will be a pain in the ass as they test it? I'm thinking back to the constant interdictions. So yes, they will make it a front and center thing. They do that with everything they put out. They want us to, like, I'm sure once the cargo and hangars come in for live, they'll be there'll be stuff around those, no doubt as well. I do think they are speeding up though, because there is more work being on actual Star Citizen though, Algared. I kind of put that off to you.
I think you're right. So yeah.
So yeah, it'll take as long as it takes, but again, it'll be alliterative as well. So it'll come in fairly basic, and then they'll build on it. Because when you do it that way, you're less likely to have problems. If you do it alliteratively, if you bring it all in and there's one error, you might have to undo all the work you've done. That's why they do it that way.
But if you bring it in piecemeal by piecemeal, you can go, yep, okay, that's checked, and then you reduce the odds of you getting errors.
Yeah, kind of like reducing the moving parts so things don't go wrong. Yeah.
I was thinking back to when you were talking about the growth of a game and the growth of development and what things would happen and how 64-bit is there, and it changed the world. There is a quote that is always attributed to Bill Gates, where he said, 640K is enough for everyone. You won't need any more than that.
He's quoted saying some of the dumbest things all the time, like spam emails will be dead within 2 years, and this was like 20 years ago, and they're still around.
Well, this is 20 years. This was 1991. And it was at a time where he's basically saying, I can't see any reason why anyone would need more than this type of memory.
What was it? IBM that said, who would ever want a personal computer? They were the top dog. And if they'd kept, they would have done everything Microsoft did if they'd actually jumped on it. They gave it away.
That sounds like a game that said, who would want to walk around their ship?
Yes, exactly. It's the same thing again. So, you might not think you want the fidelity right now. And I'm going to be honest, I reckon they will lose some people. Some people with short attention spans and stuff like that. But you've got to look at the whole thing, and it's really hard to hold the whole game in your head and see it across the entire board. But when you see the strength of the time it takes there, it validates the time at the other end, and it's going to, and what I mean by that is the pirates are going to want to take that because of the time, but then at the same time, you're going to want to stop the pirates because of the time you put in. It all balances out, and it makes it more visceral, and it makes it more important. Those player choices are more important than ever. And that's why I'm drawn to this game, because I don't want to just go, I don't want my typical Call of Duty where I come in, blast a bunch of people, I reset, let's do it again.
Yeah, I suppose.
I want it to matter. Why can't I have the same thing and it matters? And let's be honest, a lot of those games like Dark Souls and stuff that have come around, now you might not like the hardness of those games, which I personally don't either, right? But the reason why they've been so successful is they matter. Because if you stuff up, you are dead, right? It's the same thing, but just pull that out and make it longer, and you get where, again, there's no difficulty there, it's just time. Sorry.
And here's a point that ties in with this. Small ships matter.
Yep.
The redundancy issue of small ships is not a redundancy issue, because they will take less time to load, or less time to do X, or less time, but they do it in smaller quantity. And so you've got a choice. Do I spend half an hour loading my ship, or an hour loading my ship, or currently 5 hours loading my C2? Or do I do the 10 minutes loading my small ship and do 15 runs? And so there is that time balance. And I wonder how that time balance will impact the larger ship process we've looked at in the past, where do one or two missions and then we can own the ships downward.
Yeah.
It's certainly, so that's probably going to be one of the areas where it impacts how much we're earning in a time, but I still think that earned down.
I think if you take the time part out of it and just said a mission, I still feel that you could do a mission and do it. Yes, it will take longer to do a big ship on your own, but again, say it's got 5 people that normally use that ship, you'd be getting 5 times the payment of a regular person.
But I think the other thing that always comes in with our big ship earned down process is we're talking the investment of real cash to start off versus the time it takes to grind up to or down to a ship.
I'm going to be honest, I think the only place that doesn't work, the only place that doesn't work is if you don't have the time to invest. But if you don't have the time to invest in any way, shape or form, why are you playing the game? Do you know what I mean? Like, if you can only play on the weekends, you've got a limited amount of time. You can speed that up with buying it with real cash. But by the same token, if you've already brought, say, an Orion and go out and play for 2 hours on the weekend, you can use that Orion to buy the Prospector. And so that's the Saturday. The Sunday, you can be playing with the Prospector. And then the following week, you do it again and you can buy a mole. The following week, you do it. You see where I'm going with this. Like, you don't...
I fully get it. But, you know,
Yeah.
I can see... I can also see the other side where, people say, but I don't need the big ship because it's going to take me so long. And but we always say, go with what?
Yeah.
Yeah,
man. Again, if you can afford an Orion, I'd be buying that before I brought like 4 little ships, so to speak.
Yeah.
And you kind of, with the thing you discovered about the Vulture, 2.5 Vultures equals 1 Reclaimer in price, but they don't equal it in scale. They are massive. It took 16 Vultures to equal 1 Reclaimer. It just shows you straight up, and that's just on cargo. We're not even going into speed or running time or running costs or anything like that. And obviously you can see running costs come back on the Reclaimer because it's larger and stuff like that. But just on a value proposition alone, it is undeniable at this point. Right, and the only thing left is confirmation of how long those things take. And again, when you look at it logistically, and this is the thing people still fight me on, they're like, what, they're like, no, I don't agree. And it's like, well, then why would you be motivated ever to go up to bigger ships? They have to motivate you to do that. And if there's no benefit for doing so, they don't need to exist. Yeah,
100% agree. People say for ages that big ships are not going to be economically viable. That's stupid. That's moronically dumb, because it stops anyone ever wanting to have a big ship.
Yep. So
you make the ships earn equivalent to their size and process and whatever.
And we all know it's harder to work together. Again, so not only you have to motivate those people to want to be on a bigger ship that costs more, but you've also got to motivate them to earn more because they have to work with other people. It just doesn't make any sense. I think they are on some, I don't know what to call that. It's not copium or hopium or it's I think maybe it is a bit like that because they don't want to spend the extra money. It's denial. That is what it is. It's denial because they just want to be them on their ship, and that's all they want. And they want that to be the best thing ever, and they want it to be their space game. It's not our space game. It's Chris's space game.
Yep.
Yeah.
So Anyway.
Okay.
Swift Werewolf says, "Do you think we might see more ships down the road from, say, either Kruger, Intergalactic, or Argo?"
Don't get him started on that.
Oh, I wish
you had to. You had to go there, didn't you, Swift? Go ahead, get it out. Come on, get it out.
Yeah. Yes, I want. That'll do.
Argo's probably the most likely. I think we'll probably more likely see vehicles from Kruger or more weapons from Kruger.
I would like to see weapons, vehicles, or ships from Kruger, but I don't think we will. I'd like to. We might see more collab. Kind of the Ares type stuff.
Maybe more snubs from Kruger would be kind of cool.
Even something slightly bigger, but I could see them doing that. But their wheelhouse is making precision parts that are used in every other thing. That's why they made the gun. That's why they made the ship.
Yeah.
We make all the parts that go into. We literally make all the parts that go into these guns. Why aren't we building our own? We make all the parts that go into the ships. Why aren't we building our own?
Yeah. So Right.
And Aureolus Indomitus says, question: what do you think about the Monster Tech and Star Citizen deal?
Monster Tech and I didn't hear anything about Monster Tech.
Nope.
So what, they're making official Star Citizen joysticks, or are they now, or something, or mounts? Oh yeah, look it up.
Yep, I'll believe it when I see it.
Well, obviously he's bringing it up because something happened. Monster Tech, Star Citizen. Let's see what comes up. This was from 2 days. So this was from 2 days ago.
Yeah.
It looks like it was posted on Twitter. I'll see if this is. I haven't had this set up today, but
De facto, they're making chairs.
So, tucked away in a narrow alley surrounded by the hum of the hover cars and the chatter. Okay, blah, 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 blah. Also, Noshi is a visionary engineer with unyielding passion, blah, blah, blah. And the guy attention is like this doesn't really say anything. It's just that it's got. So what are they? They're making chairs.
Yep, that's what
Aegis,
that's what
Mira,
guys are saying. So Aegis, Mirai, RSI.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to read, but you kept talking me. Anyway, yeah.
Great.
Okay, so they're making some chairs. Okay. I'm not a fan of gaming chairs, period. Personally, I've bought a few in my life and they're all crap. And they're usually ridiculously expensive. I'm also not into joysticks, so yeah. Each to their own.
I've seen the ads for Star Citizen joysticks and control systems over numerous times, that have always ended up dying because either the company went broke or they changed or bought out or whatever. So yeah, I'm and like you, I've not liked gaming chairs because I can get the same chair without the logo for half the price or significantly cheaper. It's like, why am I spending money just to get this chair? You'd have to make it a really good deal for me to spend money on that extra money.
And they are very expensive chairs and very expensive mounts. So yeah.
You know what my view was on cases for computers. So
yeah, I had to really twist his arm to get that, but now he's got it. He sees the benefit.
It would be the same type of thing with the chair. It would have to be a bloody good chair for me to have a bloody good reason to take.
Yeah, and again, how do I kind of want to put this delicately, but men tend to buy things based on function. Women buy things based on how they're looked. So to be honest with you, it's your wife you need to stop. Because she's more likely to buy it for you than you are to buy it for yourself. Because
I would say that. Yeah. She's likely to see it and go, oh, he's into Star Citizen, I'll get him this chair. Oh, he's into Drake, he's into Morai, he's into Aegis. Yes, I'll get him that chair because he needs a new chair because his chair's crap.
Yeah, look, I got this ergonomic chair a couple of years ago, and it's been an absolute godsend. And before that, I had gaming chairs, and they caused me a whole bunch of back issues and stuff. And ever since I got this, I've slept better. I don't have any aches and pains like I used to have. It makes a world of difference. Where if you actually know how most of the gaming chairs are made, and it actually goes back to how things are manufactured in China, right? They only have one mold for chairs. And so essentially they're all the same. Right, and nobody wants to make a second mold because of the way copyright they don't follow copyright in China. So I could go out and spend and these molds cost millions to get made, right? Millions of dollars. So say company A goes out and makes one, and they spend $500 million. The Chinese would just instantly let everyone else start using it. So you might make a whole new looking different chair, but they don't care. They will just keep using the mold, and they own the mold, not you. You paid for it, but they own it. So all you would be doing is paying all that money for someone else to use the same mold.
Yeah.
Waste of time. So the only chairs that you see that are any different are things like Monster Tech and other companies outside that, because they are making them themselves and they're not producing them in China. But that's also why the costs go up astronomically, because they're not in a manufacturing hub like China, and so everything costs more. So if you want unique looks, you are going to pay through the teeth for them. And again, at the end of the day, I don't use joysticks, so I don't need a chair like that. And if I did use joysticks, I'd be looking for mounts that connected to a pre-existing chair or connected to my desk, because then I can use any chair I want. So chairs, I just can't get behind the chair stuff personally. Go into mounts if you're into the joystick stuff, and again, there are Predator mounts are out there. I know they're based out of America. They're not based out of Europe. So maybe if you're from Europe, look at Monster Tech, and if you're from America, look into Predator mounts, and basically go for the ones that are better for you. But I do know the Predator mounts are far cheaper, far cheaper, like half price.
Yeah,
anyway,
it's just a matter of finding like you said, finding a thing that's right for you.
And Predator mounts are actually made by one of our own, like a fellow Star Citizen backer type guy. He started it off, so yeah. And I I can probably be a bit biased there because I know him and I helped make the logo. Like the text was done by me and the graphic in the background was done by Grim. So yeah, so I'm probably biased in that regard, but I don't own any. And I, again, joysticks are not my thing, just like game controllers are not my thing. The main control system for this game is going to be mouse and keyboard, and that's what I'll support because 90% of people will be using that.
Yep. So, and going to the, the chairs, I'm using a Herman Miller office chair, because it's a bloody good chair.
Yep. And they got like 25-year warranty or some shit on them, don't they?
Obscene warranty, yeah.
Yeah, mine's got like 5 years on it, but
it's like Herman Miller with their chairs are a bit like Rode with their mics, because Rode are just awesome, and their mics, their Procaster and Podcaster and those mics, 10-year warranty, 10 years. Yeah, they're expensive, but 10-year warranty. Can't go past that. Clever Ghost. Question. Since hangars are instanced, do you think we will see performance improvements in cities and stations? Less memory, hopefully.
Sorry, I'm replying to the person about their Cillian. You were saying, I missed the question, I'll read it. What are you answering?
So, Clever Ghost. Hangars being instanced, will it make performance enhancement?
It basically just makes it so they don't have to have a physical room for every single person. And you could essentially do the same thing with HABs, right? Yep. Because HABs will be the same. So I spawn in and then I've moved out of the way, then it spawns in again, and Algared can come out of the same HAB and stuff like that. And it's the same thing with eventually when you own your own home and stuff like that, they can essentially have one building that does it all instead of multiple buildings and stuff like that. It just allows them to speed up development, and it makes it simpler for us because, we'll put it this way, if you had a person in every room in every single building, think about how far you've got to walk and stuff like that, or can you just go out and you're straight on the street? There are benefits to everyone.
And it is where they will cheat.
Yep.
They will cheat. They'll do the balance between the realism they want, the fidelity they want, and making it fun.
Yeah, that's it. That is exactly true. You want to try and make it as real as possible, but the fun trumps realism. Fun should always be realism. It is a game after all. You're there to entertain people, and I think we can look at that across all the stuff we've talked about today, like the physical loading of cargo and stuff like that. If that is not fun, they will go rear back and make it fun. Right, and there is a puzzle. Like let's just look at the cargo thing. The actual physically loading on the ship. There is something cool about that, especially when you're dealing with multiple different size containers and also trying to work out the puzzle of how to load them in and out quickly in the right order and stuff like that as well. And it's different on every single ship. And don't dismiss Tetris. It's one of the most popular games in the entire world. Right, you might not like it, but some people really do like Tetris.
Someone somewhere will.
It's a 3D Tetris loading cargo. Yeah. All right, next one, Algared, when you're ready.
Lazarus. I'm glad to see you've risen from the dead. Will it be more beneficial to use the Caterpillar command module on the Ironclad Assault because of tractor beams, or will it be better to have the larger command module?
Depends on what you're doing.
No.
And it's actually kind of cool that you've got that choice. Isn't that cool to have that choice?
I can see the Caterpillar command module being clipped to the assault variant, because then you've got tractor beams. Yep,
and you could help load in and unload the tanks if you need to. Also, it gives another tractor beam to the normal Ironclad, so it can help with it can bring a cargo box over. They can grab it and start to put it inside. So yeah, it helps with that space loading.
Then the downside is we don't know what components are going to be on that larger command module. Will it have more shields, or
I think it's time to prove Algared wrong. He's tired again.
Yep. But if the larger command modules are different sizes, then
Ironclad. So we do actually have them, Algared, because they put it in the brochure.
Yes, but they talked about, okay, the modules on the
There, they're all there.
modules on the command module itself.
Yeah, that's the command module.
Okay.
So that's
Okay.
the assault, that's the ironclad, and that is the command. Oh, move this way. Command.
But compared to the, but what I'm talking about is the module on the Caterpillar. What modules it's got and how they compare.
They've basically said it's exactly the same. It just has this has 6 jump seats. It doesn't have any jump seats. That's why this one's longer. Because if you think about it, but if you think about the other command module, you've got the 2 seats at the back. But if you kind of move them around and then also extended the ship a little, you could put 6 seats in there on the sides.
Certainly, when I eventually pick up a ironclad, I'm using it in game. I'll be using my Caterpillar command module on my. Assault.
So what it does though, and the reason they've done it, you can see why they've done it, because this gives you escapability. The other one gives you functionality.
Yep.
So what do you want? Like leave people behind to die when the shit eventually hits the fan, or do you get?
You talked about my use of people as red shirts, so
player
shirts.
Player choice is what I was going to say. So
yep,
it makes sense. All right, distraction got on the super chat. It says, Hummerson agree with your views on ship purchases for the game. In since 2015 with over 3k Hangar between only 5 ships for streaming. Buying down is my plan. Would love to do a fix my fleet with you one day. Yeah. Jump in the Discord and chuck your fleet in the thing, and at me and Algared, and we'll have a look at it. You know.
In fact, just at me, at us both, and we'll work out a time and we can do it.
Yeah.
And we'll put it into our bank.
Yeah. We'll look. We will always help people, but it might not always become a show.
Yep. Although we could do a show and just put it in the bank for.
If it's good enough, yeah. If it's good enough, but.
October. But we are looking for 5 or 6 shows.
Yeah, we're gonna need to have a few at least for that. I haven't worked out. It's just gonna be 4 or 5, that we need for the bank while we're away. Plus, we'll obviously try and do. I've had as of last week's stream, someone reached out to me and was they're gonna lend me a laptop while I'm in the UK. So, because I've got the laptop, Algared can still technically use his phone, just like he's been doing. But obviously, we won't have the fancy green screens for that month. So no, it'll probably be just like it is here, but I'll be in a park or you know, in a restaurant or something like that. And I'll obviously have to take my headphones, so I'll probably just be on something like these with a normal mic. So I won't, we won't be as clear as usual, but I'm sure you guys can rough it for a month. And we can kind of just keep doing what we're doing. Plus, it'll be interesting because we're obviously on the road. We're in the UK, and we can talk about things coming up pre and post CitizenCon. And I'm sure you guys will have heaps of questions, and it'd be great to kind of get those answers, especially if we do tours and stuff like that. We can get a bunch of questions beforehand and afterwards as well.
Yeah,
and hopefully see some of you guys there as well, which is what that's the main thing I'm looking forward to is just meeting people. It was the same thing when we did the bar Citizens Algared. It's always just sitting down with real people and actually tangibly talking about the game, because no offense to your ugly mug, Algared, but I see your ugly mug every week, and all we see from everyone is just text, but I actually want to sit there and
it's always the joy of. It's one of the things I've always liked about the Bar Citizen is actually meeting up with people and the talk. And and I know even when we met for the first time, that was different because we see each other's ugly mug, but it is again different when you're actually sharing a beer or.
But we slipped into it pretty quickly, So and I'm sure it'll be no different when we kind of get to meet Paul and Space and Loken all in the flesh. I think it'll be no different to
that. I look forward to that. I've got to admit, it's
likewise.
It wasn't one of the things I thought would be awesome, but it's one of the things I am looking forward to.
Just sitting down and chewing the fat in person.
Especially when we've done it so often. Definitely. Happy Rob, or Happy R Bob, says, do you think we will see a Constellation Gold Pass before 4.0 and Battle 1.0?
I
definitely
don't.
before 1.0.
Yeah, I
but
don't.
anything else.
Yeah, I don't think before 1.0 because I think they're planning 1.0 sooner rather than later.
Okay.
I get the feeling their plan with Star Citizen, and you correct me if you think I'm wrong here, is to treat it like an early access game. They kind of want to release it and then build on top of it. And there's a couple of benefits to that. The main one being money.
Yeah. Look, I think, in a sense, it is released and it is an early access game.
Yeah.
So, in that sense,
yeah. You know, I know this is not on the question, but I just had in the back of my mind when we were talking about the UK, maybe we should set up a bar citizen for London, Algared, and outside CitizenCon, either before or after, and we could do one down there, and maybe do one up. I don't know if there's enough people, there's enough interest. We could do one down there.
Inforunners travel to Europe. Yeah.
Well, not just Inforunners, but I think we could probably bring a few of the other content creators with us because you got Manchester. Obviously, there's a bit of heap of shit going up in Manchester, but that maybe there's some people down south that don't want to make the trip, but because we're going to be there, we could make the trip.
So Inforunners do a Galactic Gears type, not a Galactic Gears, top Gears.
Maybe, and maybe it's just us at a pub. It doesn't have to be anything too fancy.
Nope.
Just a meet and greet while we're there. And some of the people down south. So if there's someone interested that's listening that thinks that would be a thing that would be of interest, let me know. Because I was just thinking, maybe while we're there, take the advantage to see as many of you guys as possible, because that's the real reason I'm going. I can do, me and I can do CitizenCon from home. And quite honestly, from an information perspective and a money perspective, it would be way better for us to stay home. Well, not just for saving money, making money too.
Yep.
Like we make more money on those CitizenCon days than any other day. So us going, we're losing money, but we're not doing it for money. That's the point.
Yeah. If we were doing it for money, we certainly wouldn't be spending money to go.
Well, that's why certain content creators don't go to CitizenCon, and you know who they are because they make more staying home. And that tells you everything you need to know about them. They're not in this for the game. They're in this for the almighty dollar.
Yeah. And I know we went to doing ads on YouTube, but that was it was something we did kicking and screaming. And Paul was one of the people. I think Paul and Space dragged us into doing ads and said, you've got to do it if you want the channel to grow. And we
I can't actually remember who it was, but we had to monetize because YouTube just don't put you forward if you don't monetize. But everything we get now just goes back into goes back into flights or gear and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And
right. How much have we spent on gear just on in the last year and a half? Easy.
Yeah. So most of the stuff this year went on to my flights as well as the GoFundMe. And the other thing we brought recently, if you're not aware for it, was we brought a new mic for, he got one of these. We got a mic for Paul, and we got him a Go Mini XLR because the mic and shit he'd been using since the very beginning, and it had always had issues. And I don't know if you've noticed in the last month, but he doesn't have any of those issues anymore. They've all just evaporated.
What kind of mic does he have, X?
He's got, I just showed it. He's got the same mic as me, a Rode Procaster, but he's also, we didn't get him a full Go XLR. We got him a Go XLR Mini, which is what Space has got. So again, us talking between each other, we kind of worked out what was the best for him, and he trusted everything we'd said, and he just brought what we kind of said blindly. Well, not blindly, but he brought it, and I think he's enjoying it. Next time we catch up with him on voice, I'm sure we'll pick his brain over it and see that he's happy with it. But yeah.
But we also, in the last year or so, had updated both our lights.
Yep.
So the light system we're both using has been updated.
Yep.
We've also picked up a lot of gear for planning for CitCon.
Well, I gave you money towards, what was it? I think I gave you about $1,000 towards a new camera or some kind of stuff as well.
Right.
Yeah.
So yeah, and G33 Geesley says with a $10 super chat. Sing a song though, that chubby mic.
The way he said that, I thought he was going Piano Man. Sing us a song, you're the piano man. Sing us a song tonight. We're all in the mood for a melody, and Algared's ruining my fucking song.
But he's saying, you're doing it wrong. It's supposed to sing me a song through that chubby mic.
I was doing Piano Man, but anyway.
Drops tips in the jar. Will finally get us to CitizenCon.
And hopefully Squadron 42's all right.
Yeah.
Right.
Gee, that is so far.
Yeah.
Oh. Yeah. Anyway.
Yep.
Ashhole says, better for PvP. So, that's what you were doing before. It's talking about the lanes through quantum travel. Swift Werewolf. Part 2, question Genesis and E1. Do you think CIG will release more information on these two ships either this year or next year? And can you see either one or both perhaps being reworked on?
So the E1's going to be the first one. Obviously, it's the test bed. It's smaller. It's only really got 6 to 8 AI to deal with.
Yep.
But it's a need, a want, and what do you get out of it? And I don't think you get enough out of it right now. And I start to look at other ships that were required. There are a few of them, isn't there? Obviously, all the VIP transports and stuff like that. They are going to have to do it eventually. But what other benefits does that hold? And I have to think it also ties into just general ship AI as well. Across the board, but a lot of that, generally just walking around and stuff would have been seen to in Squadron 42. I think though, as you move into more professions, Algared, so like you and I talked about, where they're doing like repair or something like that, that is tied in with that. So it is there. I just don't know how far down the road it is in my thought process. Like, where do you see that being? I'd have to say it's somewhere in the next 2 years, easily. But I just don't know where it is because they haven't talked about it.
No.
Like they've never come out and said, "Oh, that the E1 will be out in the next 2 years." They've left it open. They've learned not to give dates, essentially. So it's a hard one to say.
And when you look at the Genesis Starliner, that's an
that's
even
after
bigger.
that, yeah. So I'm not even looking at that because the E1 will be first.
Yeah. So yeah, when it's done. I know it sounds like a non-answer, but it's so far. I think it's so far down the track. If we get it, it's a bonus, but doesn't matter. I think they're a bigger fish that they could fry before they do those. So yeah. Distraction. Says question. Speaking of the old test they did for interdictions, where it happened all the time while we tested it. Using those metrics, how bad do you think it'll make repair when that comes in? I think we've actually answered that. I think you. Discussing it.
Yeah. I think what that was the super chat, and we've just caught up to the super chat.
Yeah. Okay.
Indrellis Indominus says, question: in the future, can we build up disbanded space stations? Do you think that we will also get disbanded cities and planets to build up again? I've talked about this, Algared, haven't I? So I'll let you.
Yeah, look, 100%. Chris talked about ages ago there'd be space stations we could fight over, and if you had control of a space station, you could repair it and arm it and etc.
I even theorized even further than that. I said, look at how Pyro's broken and worn down. Could it actually get to the point where they abandon it because they find a better station, then someone moves in, reworks it all and makes it brand new and great again, and then the cycle repeats essentially over a couple of years? So could we see Pirates, say, eventually move into Stanton, as an example, take over a segment of Stanton, but then people from Stanton might move into Pyro because it's become safer in there and they refix and redo things up? Totally possible. I remember being on a podcast with Space Tomato when they were talking about buildings, I think it was last year, and I said, imagine if the cities could physically scale and then become decrepit and break down as they're abandoned. And I know they talked about that with Outposts, but they've never really elaborated on cities. But with the building tech, there's no reason they can't do that.
Well, Chris talked about settlements being like that when it's going well, like places like, you know, and he was talking, and my understanding when he was talking was places like Lawville. When it's going well, there'll be no litter, no graffiti, and all the shops will be full. When an area is going through economic distress, you'll start to see graffiti, you'll start to see things get broken, you'll start to see shops close.
So the question for me that always came out, though, Algared, when you and I talked about it, is how do you go from an outpost-like style settlement to the size of a city? And the way that we ended up coming to is something like a foundation building, that when you, whatever that core foundation building is, or the main building in an outpost, you do something to it and it changes it so it becomes, so it's more structured and grid-like. So it goes from this free form where you can put buildings wherever the hell you want to they've got to be placed within the city, a city grid. Yeah. Or do you leave it free formed? Because technically there are places like Microtech where you have little islands and stuff. So it could go either way. You plan the city how you want to plan the city. It is your city after all.
If you're building a city and it's and you're saying what can be built on your plot of land, then yeah. But I think there'll be an element where if there's people coming to that area and settlers and people living in that area, and that you'll see over time, if you build it, they will come. The NPCs will come and be there, and that ties in with. I get that idea from talking to Erin back in 2014 when we're talking the effect on the world, and it was a dynamic universe where if we left the Vanduul to attack a system and didn't do anything to it, it would become a Vanduul system. If we take a Vanduul system over time, it will become an Earth system, and Earth ships will start turning up to defend it. It's the same type of thing. It's that dynamic universe, and if you've got a dynamic universe, then yeah, I could see cities scaling up and down. So Microtech would never scale up and look like Hearst, Lawville,
or could it? Or could it?
Well, in terms of the style of buildings,
not the same style, but like, could it get so could it get so dense that essentially the islands merge? And we see that in real life. There's another. They've done that in Eco, actually, by the way. Yep. So if your town gets big enough in Eco, it can actually take over the town next to it, and you can essentially be big enough that they lose their governance and you take control of them, which is insane because that's what happens in the real world.
I think in terms of Microtech, yes, it could come a lot more congested and more and enclosed.
Even where you live in the world, Algared, Sydney's got so big that the cities that were around it are now suburbs of the city. You know, but they do have their own councils and stuff still. Yeah,
we've you know, I live in one of the local satellite cities of Sydney, but we've you know, if people ask me where I live, I'm the western suburbs of Sydney. You know, like I'm Sydney. I'm just out west. But yeah. Sydney goes from the coast to basically to the river, and then you've got the lower Blue Mountains. It's basically Sydney goes to the mountains, effectively. You know, so yeah. Anyway, next question.
Red Samurai says, do you happen to see SCL yet? Thoughts on what they all said about the economy? No, we haven't seen it yet because it literally went up about 10 minutes before we started. So no, we have not seen it yet. I'm sure I'll watch a synopsis of it after the stream, and I think, Algared, you'll be in the same boat because you got here late.
Probably in that boat, yeah. I hadn't seen it. And what we usually do is we'll grab a synopsis or hear something that someone says, and if it tickles our fancy, we'll watch it. But yeah, it's an hour of time that I can spend elsewhere. And some shows just 15 minutes of them talking and then 30 minutes of doing stuff they've done in the past that I'm not really interested in.
Yeah.
Other times it might seem to be something I'm not interested in, but something will catch my eye and I'll watch it and it's like, yep.
Just some other things too. We are probably going to do some little changes to the stream as we get closer to CitizenCon. We're going to use this stream to test some of the stuff. So you might see some of our cameras change as an example, because we've got some cameras we want to take to CitizenCon, but we want to actually test and see if they can stream and stuff. I might even get outside and show you a bit of Tassie, my local area. I've been looking in a way that I could walk around and stream, and it'd be a really great test for when we go to CitizenCon and stuff like that. It allows us to test both the Wi-Fi connection of the physical cameras and to prove that the tech might work or not work. Obviously, I've got a backup of my phone if something goes down and stuff like that, and Algared's probably going to need to do the same with his setup as well. And so both physically sitting here, it might be a slightly different view than what you're used to, but the sound will, the audio will be the same. But then when we get out on foot, it'll be the cameras and sounds there. So again, we want to prove all this works. So when we get there on the day at CitizenCon, it just doesn't not work. We want to,
yeah.
We need to learn how it works, so we'll be using these streams to do so. So just bear with us, but it's all in your benefit and ours, obviously, as we move towards CitizenCon.
Because if it doesn't work, then that's going to nothing works. Then we're certainly not going to be doing what we thought we were going to do.
I think also I need to probably state during the actual day, he's not here at the moment, but he was here with us earlier. Lemming's probably going to be driving the main day, and he'll probably I don't know if he'll talk a lot, but he'll be driving in the background, and between the panels, you'll probably talk to either both me and Algared or one of us, depending on what we're doing during the day, and then Lemming will switch it back over because we can't control it on the floor and that, so we'll essentially be feeding our feeds out to him, and he'll also have the official stream, so it'll kind of go back to the official stream when that's on, like our regular streams, and then it'll either go to me or Algared with our camera in between, or both, depending on what we're doing. Or Algared might have a panel that he wants to go see, so I'll do that one, and then I might want to go do one, or we're both having lunch or something like that. We'll work it out as we go.
And with that in mind, one of the things that's also happened recently is Lemming's got a new mic as well. So
yep, which is why we set him up. Oh, I did totally forget about that. Yeah, we set him up with a new mic and a boom arm as well, so he can talk on the live streams more now as well. So
he was on briefly this morning.
Yeah. But he also helped me out with the CCU guide at the end of Invictus as well. So he's been on for that as well. So I've got him set up with his little camera. He doesn't want to have his face, and that's totally fine. But he's got his little Soundwave thing with his little lemon icon going there as well. So we got him set up for that. And I'm working everything out as we go. We're getting there. There's very few. I think the last thing I'm down to now is the best way to take a Wi-Fi connection, meaning on a SIM card, like a prepaid SIM or whatever. I've already looked into the plans that are available in the UK. I'm pretty much sure I'm going to settle with a company called EE. They've got a £38 unlimited data for 1 month plan, so we'll probably pick that up, or might even have to pick up two of them, one for Algared's phone and one for mine. But what I've been looking into is phones don't seem to be as good as a mobile like a mobile Wi-Fi router, and that was the other thing I was looking into. But again, they're about $200. But again, we can share one of those, and then we'd only need one SIM. So it really just comes down to testing and finding out and doing research. So in the background, that's what I was doing most of this week, was just doing a lot of reading about Wi-Fi routers. So, and there's not a lot of them, and the ones that are considered good are ridiculously expensive. Like I was looking at a Netgear one, and it was $1,000 Australian dollars. I was like, that's insane. I'm not going to spend $1,000 for two days. But then I found ones that I could buy internationally that would be about $180. So that's what I'm looking at the moment. And they're the same one Telstra uses here in Australia. So if Telstra's using that, then they should be good enough.
But all of those types of things are types of things that of why we decided to do that GoFundMe as well. It wasn't just get us the airfare. It was we know we need the equipment, and So yeah. So
but if that's in your wheelhouse, like if anyone's listening and you're a a networking specialist or you've done portable streams, please feel to reach out, because it is not in my wheelhouse, and that's why I'm doing a lot of research. Like one of the questions me and Algared always asked is, why is no one streamed from the floor of CitizenCon? We now, as we've gone through this, can tell you why. One is the expense. Two, it's really hard to organize, and it's only for 2 days. This equipment is very specific for a mobile environment, and we had to get different cameras. We had to get different mic setups, different Wi-Fi setups, and all that. And it literally, I allowed $1,000 for it, and I took most of it out of my own money. So that, it's cost. And Algared's done the same. He took it out of his own as well, and it's just. It costs more than we thought. It's probably cost twice that. And again, we will have that, but we're not going to go to every city. If we were lived in the States, I could probably justify it, because you'd be going to CitizenCon every second year type of thing. Or if we were, one of the biggest streamers like Morph or Board, and we could afford to physically go every year, then I could probably justify it as well. But this is probably realistically, and if I really think about it, we might make it to an American one as well. But if this channel took off and we became one of the bigger ones, then yeah, me and Algared would go every year without even blinking. But we can see why no one's done it now, because it is a really big expense for such a small time period. But it's something we wanted to try, and we're going to try it. And if we pull it off, then maybe someone else might try and do it as well. There's got to be someone. It's like CRG themselves with all the tech they've made. Someone had to pave the road. We'll try and pave the road, and well, I don't know. You guys tell me, and I can do a poll for this if you really want. But just tell me in the chat. But I would much rather have someone streaming from on the ground that's actually there and trying to get into the environment, so I could feel like I'm actually there, than just the panels. Right? Yeah. And that's most of what people do. They just restream the main thing and they give you their insight. Now, that's totally fine. But if I'm on the ground, that's something that no one else has done. And that was something I really articulated Algared. I want to get into that and bring them with us, because there are so many of us that can't make it there. And me and Algared can relate to that, because we've been following this game for all this time and we've never been.
Yep. And this is the first, it really is the thing that we want to do, and I think the only thing that came close was
PAX,
which was also streamed.
It was literally a decade ago. Like if we happen to get interviews with Chris and Sandy, it'll be 10 years since we sat down with them in the flesh. Anyway, so that's on the cards for us as well. That we're looking into other interviews. I think that's the other thing I'd probably want to hear back from you guys is there certain people that you would want to, like it's obvious most of the ones, but like there's certain people I want to get in and talk to that I've just had questions. I want to make connections and actually talk to some of the devs and get to know them and ask them on a human level, because I know from being in game development in the past, there is a certain like any working environment, there's a politics involved, what they call it, office politics, and I think that is a part of why certain things turn out the way they do at CIG as well, but also just getting to know them on a personal level as well, because they are human beings after all.
Yeah.
Right, you want to do the next question, or have I bored you to death?
Alan, do you think they refreshed and or gold standard staff error for Squadron 42? No, they won't even get there.
It'll be afterwards, after. Yeah, because it's in and working for Squadron. Don't stuff with what works for Squadron. Yeah.
Andrew Denigan, what do you anticipate the new Saber variant teased in today's jump point will be?
It was in the jump point. Can you send me the link to that?
I will look it up and send it.
But John Cruz said literally it was the thing people are saying the Firebird was that earlier that week, and everyone would have been saying it was a QED. So I would say it's a Saber QED variant.
Yep.
Andreas and Dominus says, question, will you be in the game in the same plane from Australia? No, we will most likely will not, because we're coming at different times. Algared's going for a lot longer than I am. And he's doing
Indeed.
like a big Europe trip and stuff, and he's
Yeah.
hanging out with family and stuff, and they smell bad, and I just don't want to
Intending
be
to
so.
do some family
Can
stuff.
you
I want to
can
do
you
some.
imagine being trapped on a plane with this guy for a day and a half? I will go mental. Like, I'm this crazy already. How crazy would I be if I'd been on it for a whole day and a half with Algared?
Yeah.
I'd pull all my hair out. I'd be done.
Imagine what it's like for me.
Yeah, I know. Pure bliss. Pure bliss. Yeah.
So yeah, but it's not that we've deliberately avoided each other. It's just that
Yeah. But we're going to be there for a week in Manchester together. We'll have time to hang out. It's no problem. And honestly, if I really wanted to hang out with Algared and vice versa, we only live like an hour and a half away by plane.
Yep.
And so we could.
have.
Yeah.
We have been to my place.
We have. So yeah.
We played Witcher.
Yep.
So we've not just met at Bar Citizen. We have actually arranged to meet up and
Yep.
getting that download. Very laggy. Jump point 1203. That must be the one we're looking for.
Yep. Right. I'll do the next question while you grab that, if that's okay. Happy Hour Bob says, have they worked out the Carrick's cargo pods yet, or will be doing 5-hour loading sessions during Tier 0 of cargo elevators? Well, all I can go on is the old stuff. So originally they were going to come down to the ground, and then it had side doors, not end doors like you've seen some of the things, but it had side doors, and then you would load them on, and then it would close the doors and go up. So realistically, it's not ships that have stuff that come down to the ground are going to be quicker to load. Like, so a C2 is really quick for loading. It's probably in the mid-range because you can put vehicles on really quickly, but then you've got to take all the physical cargo up the ramps to get them in there. Where what's a similar ship? It's not similar, but like say a Hammerhead, if it was in the hangar, it lands and you just put all the cargo on and then it goes up. So there's benefits and drawbacks to both. So yeah, I don't know how else to kind of say that. I don't know how else to answer that. I think you're going to mean. I think he's trying to say though that they haven't finalized how they're going to be. But if you go back and look at the concepts, you can see that they worked through all that stuff. There was doors on the side that opened. I'd be more worried about the actual extra modules that they haven't really talked about. Algared.
Yep, I could see that. I'm just looking. What was he looking for?
I want the link. I just want the jump point. Send me the link to the PDF.
I will.
Yeah.
I'm just wondering what they were saying. What they were.
Yeah.
Question. I couldn't see the Raven stuff.
We'll just send it. Just send it to
like
me.
But,
Yep. Sten, the question I have is, why is the Hammerhead forced to do a docking port when it's smaller in dimensions than the Carrick? It's a really good question. I don't think it actually is smaller though. But let's go back over to this. I could be absolutely wrong and get about to butcher what I'm saying here, but I know the Carrick and that are exactly the same pad size. So that is the Carrick is technically the largest that can land. Yeah, the Carrick should technically be able to. And there are some times though when you put the Carrick, the Hammerhead in, it doesn't go to docking ports. I think they've just tried to put the Hammerhead to be on docking ports because they needed to test one of the ships, and that's just the one they picked. For example, if the docking ports are full, it will put you in a hangar. So I think eventually you'll be able to pick. I think they've just used it as the test bed.
Yep, sounds reasonable because they've done lots of things at a test bed. So
yeah,
over the years.
I want that one, and I want it to face down. There we go. Whoa. Yeah, so they're very similar in size. Yeah, but I think it's just that one's a test bed. I hope that answers your question. But yeah, they are very much on par size wise.
Yeah, I think the Hammerhead using the collars was something they wanted to put in for all ships that had a collar, and it was just the one they used for it. There were certain ships that needed it, but yeah.
I can't remember, but there is a docking collar on this thing somewhere. I think there is anyway. been a hot minute since I've looked at it. Is that it
Oh,
down? Yeah, down there. So it's down there.
Yeah, way down there. Yep.
Yeah. Which is just, so this is where you come in. It's the docking on one side and the elevator on the other. So yeah, I've got, yeah, I think that goes the other way too. Why can't you dock with the Carrack? That's the other side of the question you need to be asking.
Yep.
So,
And I
yeah.
think it's just they didn't get around to it.
Mm.
That'll be something they add as an update to all ships that have docking collars. The fact that they can dock.
Yeah.
If they need to, and that means once all ships that have docking collars can dock, that means they don't have to have every station have a hangar.
Yeah.
The small ones can just be docking collars.
I agree with that.
So,
yeah,
it just gives options.
Yeah, all right, you got that link for me, or did you send it through? You did.
I've already posted. I posted the whole thing to you.
Hang on, let me flick
download file.
Let me flick back over then. All right, here we go. It'll most likely be the very last page if I know my sneak peeks like I do. So I'll let that load. Sorry for the big white screen for anyone that's watching. Oh no. Oh, there it is. It's the outline right there, Algared.
Yep.
And it's green. Interesting.
It's using Banu tech. You remember the Banu, when it's in quantum, is kind of a green instead of blue or red or...
I just think that they've gone colours. If you think about it, if they were making a fourth variant, it would be yellow because they've got a red, a blue, a green.
Red, blue, green, yep.
Yeah. The Sabre was, the Raven was blue. The Firebird was red. This is green. The only colour left is yellow. And I guess you could just make that the default Sabre, couldn't you?
So a default Sabre, which is yellow, plus the blue of the Raven gives you the green.
And you can already see there what they've done different. It's not, it's almost got like two shark fins either side like that. Almost like a, I'm going to butcher it because I don't know the name, but one of the American fighter jets, I think it's like the F-15, but don't quote me on that. It's got the two fins like that, which is interesting. And it's also obviously got the little trail parts as well on the either side of the wing. I'm interested. I think it might be filled in as well, which would be interesting. I don't know. Interesting. Hopefully we don't have long to wait on that one. I think we'll probably see that one before CitizenCon, honestly, Algared. That's the other thing you and I have got to look into, Algared, as well.
Ships for?
The ship Showdown. I totally forgot about that. We'll probably have to do that today sometime.
Today or tomorrow. Yes.
Yeah. So we got asked by CIG if we wanted to submit a video for that. So we'll look into that. It's got to be in by the 30th. So we've only got 2 days, Algared. We better get on that. They only gave us a week though, mind you. So yeah.
And we've got a short list.
Well, it's down to 2.
It's down to 2.
We're both fighting over those 2, but we're also fighting with Paul. Well, it's been really fun.
Well, I think we're both in favour of the Gladiator.
Don't give it away, Algared. You ruined the video. Why do you always punch? Oh, that's terrible. You always give away.
Because I'm not a comedian.
You'd be no good for Secret Santa. You just walk straight at the person and go, "Hey, I got your gift."
So if you tell me it's Secret Santa, I'm okay. But I'm not a comedian. I don't play punchlines.
Yeah.
See. But there are a couple of ships that we think of that are deserving of being in the top 8 and need skins. 890 jumps, one that needs a skin. It'd be nice to have a skin for the 890 jump.
Yeah.
But it ain't going to happen.
Yeah.
Anyway, question. Artemis TGM says, can you envision a consistent update release, perhaps a new solar system every quarter, i.e. Terra, Nyx, Magnus, etc.? Yes.
Absolutely.
I wouldn't be surprised if the studio
is in that very thought pattern as it is.
Canada is doing that already. So yeah.
Because they had 3 people rebuild the entirety of Stanton in a month.
Yep. That was way back when, and
honestly, I can't see why you couldn't have 3 systems a quarter.
Yep.
You know, and every 3, you know, even at that slow pace, that would still take you a while to get to 100.
Yep.
What's
Like,
that? What's
look,
that? 12 a year? That's still
Yeah.
very slow. You know, to get to 100, it's still going to take you close to 10 years. I think it's got to be faster than that. Let's be honest.
I wouldn't be surprised if the studio up in Canada has already got half of those systems pre-mapped or
Yeah.
pre-sorted. Or, I certainly think they've got Nix.
Yeah.
I certainly think they've got I think it's Oberon and the other systems that are being used in Squadron 42.
Got a first-time chatter on Twitch. Paresh, by the way, says, I'll be happy with a system per year. I think the 100-plus systems is crazy. I think the other thing is, though, man, we don't have all the information that they have. And when you add it all together, there is a need to have that many systems. What it is, we don't fully understand, right? Because we don't have the big picture. We have a lot of it, but we don't have the whole thing. You know, and I think that's the key part is we have to trust in them a little bit because they've been planning it from the beginning. 10 years of plans is a lot of planning.
It is, and Chris had a lot of it planned out, probably even way before, because it's a game he's always wanted to do. If you want to get an idea of the type of thing, you have a look at Freelancer, have a look at Wing Commander, because I think they give us a backdrop as to where he was. Where he was thinking and what he was wanting.
Well, even if you go back 5 years ago, so half that time, it was we'll have for 1.0 we'll have 5 systems. And you can already see what most of those are, you know. We talked about that, I think 2 live streams ago. We went through all those. You know, we went through the old line of 5, but then we showed ones. I think it was Castra was really obvious choice because I'd heard things about it in the background from people I know, and Castra seems to be one of the ones that we'd never considered. But when you look at it on the line of 5, it makes a lot of sense because it connects to a lot of the other systems on the line of 5.
Ties in with a lot of stories as well. So. And the line of 5 comes from Chris's comment saying he envisaged 5 systems at start. So people went, okay, what are the 5 systems we need? Okay, the first system is a system Squadron 42's in because it's there. The second one is Stanton because we're in it. And the third one on that list was Nix because it always said Nix would, you know. So once you started to do that, it just became, okay, what are the 5 systems? And so people started to look at the line of 5, but then there are outliers that we've seen work on. So, I don't think I think they're working on them. Anyway, Scotty, how do you see AI crew and NPCs affecting solo ableness of large ships?
Well, Algared, you clearly wasn't looking what I was doing.
Nope. You were bringing up the... No, I wasn't paying attention because I was looking at the next question.
Yeah, it's fine. Back to... Oh, shit. It's a little sensitive.
Because I'm aware that it's 9:04.
Yeah, that's all right. You got somewhere you got to be? You got a hot date?
No.
Yeah. Okay.
No, but I am at the point where I'm thinking I need more water or stuff because it's...
Yeah. So, just real quick then, because I got to getting tired. Terra, Stanton, Pyro... Nix, Odin was the original line of 5, and the other one that I got told a lot about was Castra, and someone else was mentioning Hadron. I could possibly see Hadron as well. That does make a lot of sense. It does connect to
Magnus
Castra.
is also being tossed in the mix.
But I think the really strong one, from what I've been told by people, is Castra because it connects to it connects Nix and Pyro, and it gives you a safe option to kind of go through, so you're not going to negative planets. And the other thing you've got to look at is the jump point sizes as well, because that, like, if I start turning them off, you see what I mean? Like, if you don't have large jump points, you can't get there. If I turn only the large ones on,
and then
you need Castra.
Yeah,
and you also need Hadron as well. So, and then if I go down to medium, so let's just say they made it a temporary and it was only mediums connected. You see what I mean? It starts to, So turning them off and on does give you some insight into where we're going. Because so that's medium and large. You go Terra, Stanton, Pyro, can go Nix or Castra, and then Odin. So it's just interesting. This is almost like a roundabout in the middle. So I can see Castra, and now having done that, I can see Hadrian as well. So but the ones that I'd heard touted were things like Magnus and stuff like that, and I do think they will spin off into some of those. But the original line, you can see if you've got to pick 5 to 6 systems, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and I'd almost say Terra would be 7.
Oh,
I do.
Terra used to be one of a line of 5 early on because it was the key settlement.
Yeah, if you
Odin was always having to be there because that's where Squadron 42.
Hang on. But you don't need Terra right now. So my whole point is, if you drop Terra off, you don't need Hadrian. So you could just go Stanton, Pyro, Castor, Nyx, Odin. There's your 5.
Yep. And I think that's probably it.
Yeah.
Like you need Odin because that's where Squadron 42 is.
Yep.
You need Stanton because that's where we are at the moment, and you don't want to double up. You need, and I have heard you need to come back to Stanton to get a message through.
Yep.
That means you need the systems in between Odin and Stanton, and after that you've got one left over.
Yeah.
And that, so and people used to say Terra because Terra is the evil empire.
That's a good point. Pro Cyrus does make a point. The Vega system is also in Squadron 42, which is over here somewhere. Just give me a minute. I'm looking.
Yeah, it's because we started in Vega.
Yes. God, where the hell is it? Am I blind? I am very blind.
Too small for me to see.
Yeah, it might be. Oh, there it is. It's there. So it's not actually. Wait, if I turn all the jump points on, it's not even connected to Odin.
No.
Interesting.
Well, it doesn't need to be connected to Odin. It needs to be connected to Stanton.
Well, it's not connected to any of them. It's essentially like you'd almost, to get to Nyx, you need Bremen. I don't know. So maybe Bremen's another one that comes up as well.
Vega, Bremen.
It's not to say though that there couldn't be a jump point from here to here that we haven't discovered. That maybe it's discovered during Squadron 42. Not saying that will be a thing, but I'm highly doubtful. I think it would be more likely Vega to Hangar personally. But it is interesting. Good point though about Vega. The other thing I just want to point out here, that if it's not obvious for anyone, I'm just gonna make it really. Well, I've probably zoomed in too far there. And Sol only has 2 jump points. Just gonna point that out. There's your storyline for Squadron 42.
There's even a bigger problem because there's Vega's human, but then we've got those Vandal systems that are very close to Sol as well.
Yep.
So yes, lots of possibilities. Anyway, Zephes 4109 says, actually, go back to Scory's question about AI affecting large ships. Well, I think we've talked about that numerous times, and yeah, I think it makes them very easy to solo.
We've talked about how they can fake a lot of the stuff, the stuff that they need to do. We've actually seen all that, which was the firing of turrets and flying of ships. We've seen that already with Squadron. And then the only other thing is every other gameplay you do, it can be faked with a bar and then just doing an animation. And how do you work out those times? We use the player rating system and basically find out an average of a level 3 player to a level 3 AI and just copy the time over and do a rough, roll the random dice. Bang, it just stands there and plays the animation. It doesn't have to really do it. It can fake it.
And so they can easily, I've said AI blades and the AI NPCs will easily make ships that have multiple crew easier for us to fly solo.
Yeah.
But I still think they'll be better. You'll still get the most enjoyment out of those ships if you have players on the ship. And the more NPCs you have, the more you'll be micromanaging and stuff. So Anyway, Zephes 4109 says, really a statement concerning purchasing larger ships. I plan on hiring out as crew on larger ships. Yep, and I can see people doing that. Red Samurai, question: thoughts on the Hull B and maybe E since the mechanics are now in game? Also, didn't one have a train inside Yes. The E and the D, I think, have a train inside.
Do they
kind
really?
of like. Well, we certainly have a rail system down that corridor.
Okay.
Bit like
the Kraken's got one. I know that.
But bit like the Kraken's transport system, but I think the Kraken is the one that's certainly got the train for transporting cargo, not the hulls. They've got more just something
Personnel.
to make it easier to
Yeah, personnel.
Yeah.
Okay. It's been a while since I looked into the D. It's been a while since I looked into the D&E, especially internally. So yeah, because I usually look at the cargo stuff. But yeah. Okay.
If they don't, they certainly had room for a vehicle to go driving down the corridor.
Yep. Yep.
Okay. Gamer?
No. And the next one, nope, as well, because I don't know what they're saying. It's in some other language. Same there again. God, how many are they in a language that you understand?
No.
Yeah. So the next one is the Ranthus. Want to read that one?
Ranthus says, I saw some old videos where they talked about AI for enemies and to be the same AI they use for NPC crew. What are your thoughts on ship crews and future crew management?
Saw some videos we're talking about AI for enemies and the same AI we use for space crew. Are your thoughts on the ship? Yeah. Well, it's, again, they've got different personalities. They some will get scared from some things and something. They've got a whole personality system, and they use that same system across the board, whether they're on foot or in ship. It's again, if you take that, going back to what I was just saying a little bit about professions, it's the same thing. If I could be the best repair technician in the world, and then the shit hits the fan and the gunfire's going off and I'm the worst because I'm panicking.
Yep.
So I'm not a 5-star, I'm a 3, or I'm a 5 during non-combat and I'm a 3 and I'm a 1 during combat,
when it's bad. Yeah. And then I also talked about, if you go back to earlier videos, I also talked about having extra accounts being able to be used as NPCs, which are personal. And one of the things they said about those was that they would be more loyal.
Yeah,
they'd be more on the upper scale of ability. They wouldn't cut and run. But what that means and other stuff is,
that is the end of the questions, Algared. That is the last one for today. I'm going to look for someone to raid on.
Unfortunately, because we don't understand the
language. There was about 4 or 5 questions there that were in another language that I did not understand. Looked like it was German or Netherlands or Dutch or something.
German or Netherlands.
Yeah, so we cannot answer those, unfortunately. We only speak 2 languages, English and bad English.
And I can fumble through Indonesian.
Yeah.
So, and it's not Indonesian. So
all right, I'm gonna Paul's got a lot of viewers, but I am gonna rate him because he's doing he's a fellow Inforunner for one. We haven't rated him in a long time, by the way. It's been a while.
He's an Inforunner, so yes.
And yeah, ask him how his mic's doing for us.
And ask him when he wants to collab on our video for
the ship showdown. Tell him we're waiting. And is there anything else? I think that's it. Ship showdown video and how's his new mic setup doing?
Yep.
All right. With that, then Twitch should say goodbye to YouTube. YouTube say goodbye to Twitch. Have a good week. We'll catch you soon. And they're gone. All right. With that, then for YouTube, don't forget to like, subscribe, ring that notification bell, and thanks to everyone that went extra mile at the end of the credits on the video. You got us to CitizenCon. Literally, not even kidding. You guys helped us out and really appreciate it. I will have to do a redirect for that one, so I will need a second to set that up just for Paul's benefits. It's not for ours, but it would be for Paul's. Where is it?
Yeah, you're a bit late, Chris. Twitch has already gone.
They're gone.
They went, a good while ago.
The Astro, there he is.
Yeah, as Sangrapper says, you also speak Tasmanian. That's a foreign language.
You would know, you Western Australians. You guys all speak fish and emu over there. Anyway. All right, then. Don't know what our video is going to be on this week. We never usually do we, Algared? We kind of wing it every time. But we'll get a video out and try and remind me to we'll get a ship in there to give away for that one as well. And
Indeed.
the person that we reached out to has reached out to me, so the Sulian has gone. I will be getting that off to him very shortly, and then you and I have got to get together to do that video. I will be by to see Paul though too. All right.
Yep.
I've been Execute.
He's been Execute. I've been Algared.
Yep. I stuffed it up. See you, citizens.
What's going on with you?
I'm tired, mate.
We had a lovely routine going, and you've
I butchered it. I'm sorry. My fault.
Last few weeks, man.
Yeah, my fault. Bye.